Get involved in a lot of fun there.
All right, good morning, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order and we'll conduct a roll call. Commissioner Andrades. Commissioner Field. Commissioner Fuentes. I'll remind all commissioners if they could speak closely into the mic for our audio listeners, please. Commissioner Lewis.
Present.
Commissioner Matt.
Here.
Commissioner Murray.
Present.
Vice Chair Sanchez.
Present.
Commissioner Schladiger.
Present.
Commissioner Stein.
Present.
Commissioner Thomas.
Present.
Commissioner Yap.
Present.
Chair Mesa is present. We have a quorum. It is my pleasure to now introduce Councilmember John Lee, our host council member for today. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, thank you so much, commissioners, for being here. For all of you who are not from CD12, welcome to the best district in the city of Los Angeles. I'm a little biased. I've lived here since 1978. So this is my community, and I'm really proud that when we're able to host things like this that bring a part of City Hall out to the valley, because we are technically us and CD15 the furthest away from City Hall. So having opportunities like this to be a part of the process is something that I value. And to the commissioners, I want to say thank you for volunteering your time. It shows that you care about this city enough to be able to give your time to a process like this. This is a vital thing that we are going through. I don't need to tell you, but you know, being as someone who's been with the city since 1996, I was able to see how the charter changes in the early 2000s, how it shaped the city as we've been running it for the last over 20 years. You have an opportunity to really set the tone of what we do for those next couple of decades, because things have changed. Different things, different priorities have happened, and this is our ability to have this charter commission every couple of decades so that we make sure that we do keep up with the times. Some of the things that I hope that this commission really takes a look at, and are things that we sort of run into as council members, is during the budget process, there are a lot of things set by this commission about how we can and what we can spend money on. those are different things that like I feel have changed over the last couple of decades. And for you to really specifically take a look at different special funds and see how are we using that and how are we allowing the ability for council members to use those funds to really help better shape the city of Los Angeles. And so, commissioners, thank you for allowing me to be here. You have an important role. This is, last time I had someone, a part of a commission, to get them on there, I think I told them that there would be maybe, 5 meetings. I think you're gonna do a little bit more than that, but I appreciate that you're going around to each community because really this charter is about giving that sort of transparency to the process, giving a voice to all the different communities, whether they be in San Pedro, East Los Angeles, or here in the San Fernando Valley. It's an important thing, and I appreciate again all that you're doing for that. And it's great to see Mr. Ted Stein on here. When I heard that he was on this commission, I knew that there to be someone here with experience. Again, it's being here part of the city since 1996. I've seen Mr. Stein be on different commissions and volunteer in different ways to help the city of Los Angeles. And I think he will be a great guiding force on this commission. And Mr. Stein, I just want to say it's very nice to see you. And to all the commissioners, thank you again and welcome to Council District 12.
We now move on to multiple items of public comment. Speakers will have 1 minute per item to speak, a maximum of 2 minutes. The subject of their comments must be on topic with items on today's agenda. Spanish interpretation is available, and I'll ask the interpreter to come speak about that.
Also, Mr. Chair, anytime, be great today.
Do we need, give us 1 minute, everyone.
Buenas tardes, soy Leticia Johnson y soy intérprete en español, así que si uno de ustedes ocupa interpretación simultánea, nos pueden avisar y los podemos atender.
Thank you. All right, if for those of you who wish to speak in public comment, if you could line up at the podium, and I will hand it over to the executive director to administer public comment.
Thank you. Please come up, state your name, and I'll start your timer. You have 2 minutes. Please stay on topic for the 2 items.
Hi. So loud. Hi, I'm Linda Gervani. I'm president of the Lake Balboa Neighborhood Council for about the last 14 years. I am representing our neighborhood council. Section 9 of the charter states that neighborhood councils are advisory. We would like that to be changed to give us authority to have a vote within our boundaries on any item. I also have my own public comment. Is that all right? Thank you. I'm also chair of the Valley Alliance of Neighborhood Councils, which includes all 34 neighborhood councils in the Valley. Due to the fact that 3 council members were sentenced to prison for corruption, another facing embezzlement and perjury charges, I recommend the charter require council members to identify why they voted for or against an item, that all council members remain in the horseshoe during council meetings. I think it's imperative, and if there's no rule for it, it won't happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good morning, commissioners. My name is Chris Harris, and I'm an unpaid volunteer lead for Los Angeles for the California Ranked Choice Voting Coalition, also known as CalRCV. Thank you so much for giving me a moment to speak. Item 4 addresses the history of the LA Charter, and that's what I would like to comment on. In 2008 to 2009, a study laid the groundwork for future ranked choice voting advocacy. At that time, although the study acknowledged potential long-term benefits, the City Council opted not to proceed with RCV. Since then, technology has advanced, legal precedents have evolved, and other California cities such as San Francisco and Oakland have successfully implemented RCV. It is with this in mind that I would like to revisit the benefits of implementing ranked choice voting in Los Angeles for this LA City Council. One of the greatest benefits that we desperately need in Los Angeles and throughout the United States is that winners elected with RCV have a true majority support. It is the path to uniting the diverse groups that make up our enormous city. It also discourages negative campaigning. Candidates must compete for second choice support from their opponent's supporters. It saves money. RCV is faster, cheaper, and a better alternative to expensive preliminary elections and runoffs. Eliminating primaries could save several millions of dollars of taxpayer money in election administration and public financing costs. It also lowers the barrier to entry. RCV makes it easier for women and candidates of color to run and win, as they can run without fear of the spoiler effect, which is eliminated by RCV. Lastly, but just as important, it increases voter turnout. With a broader swath of candidates running and the knowledge that no votes are wasted, voters come to the polls with an increased confidence that their voices are being heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Ross Weisstrasser, a volunteer at the Fair LA Coalition, speaking as an individual on agenda items 1 and 4, starting with item 4. At the last meeting, including rather recently, we heard a lot about experience. And as we revisit the 1999 charter reform now, I want to lift up the experience and skills of George Kiefer and Erwin Chemerinsky, the commission chairs who helped make our city as we know it today. Charter reform happened in 1999, not only because they were respected public leaders, but because as chairs, they were outside City Hall's day-to-day rivalries. Because they stood just outside those conflicts, they became conduits between the public, the commission, and City Hall. They also succeeded because they built coalitions with each other, with the media, the business community, the civic sector, with labor. They didn't just preside over meetings, they drove proactive outreach for community backing they knew from the start would be essential if reform is going to earn the trust and votes of all Angelenos. Now to item 1, selecting leadership today. This commission, and especially its chair, must again build trust both inside and outside this body, and as agenda setters who shape tone, narrative, and public framing of charter reform as a whole to share us to navigate conflict while mobilizing diverse groups to buy in to the work ahead. And that is why I'm speaking again in support of Raymond Meza as this body's chair. His record of community organizing across divides, but constructing deliberative committees that deliver clear results is exactly the experience this commission needs to steer reforms, a citywide process that is future-focused, inclusive, and credible. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Speaker.
Lionel Morris, budget advocate, speaking for myself as an individual. For my public comment, agenda item 4, please. Then item 1. As a neighborhood council budget advocate, speaking as an individual, I would like to see neighborhood council to be treated as a co-equal government. The Los Angeles City Neighborhood Council system was created during the last charter reform due in part of the San Fernando Valley secession movement that threatened to break up Los Angeles. It is imperative that neighborhood councils are to be treated fairly and equally across the city of Los Angeles. Many underserved neighborhoods across the city, such as District 6, are underserved and underrepresented. We need to ensure the neighborhood councils and the voices of people are heard across the city by our mayor's office and by the city council. I am also in favor of expansion of the city council. Our current city council is not enough to represent all Angelenos in our city of 4 million people. So a recent polling done by the Fair Rep LA showed a strong support for council expansions. 64% of likely voter support going up to 23 members, 59% likely voter support going up to 29 members. I also favor of independent redistricting because we have to ensure that redistricting remains independent from undue influence and not to be intervened by city council or special interests. And finally, I also am in favor of reforming the civil service because I've heard from many other city employees who people who apply for a city job to wait for months to hear back. And when the economy improves in LA, the city will start rehiring, and it's gonna take months to fill in those vacant positions. So it's imperative that we provide services to all Angelenos that need city services, fill in those vacant positions, and to expedite the hiring process, as well as lateral transfers. And for item agenda 1, I give my support to Raymond Meza Jr. to be the chair of the commission. I think he handled this up professionally and he'll do a good job. Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jamie York. I'm the president of the Reseda Neighborhood Council, but I'm speaking on behalf of myself as an individual. I'd like to speak on items 1 and 4. I think it's really great that you have Rafe Schonenstein here, who wrote probably the commanding volume that we have on the previous charter process. But the one thing that I'm aware from reading that book is that this charter process will be understood within the context of everything that came before it, which is why I cannot ignore that one of our leading candidates for the leader of this commission is Mr. Stein, who has a lot of context associated with him. And this charter commission, if you elect him, will be judged within that context. Mr. Stein has the privilege of being not part of one, but two significant reforms in the city of Los Angeles, both of which were based on his actions. The first one had to do with the labor ordinance that called in 1995, which was responsible for 300 low-wage service workers with up to 20 years seniority losing their jobs. But the irony of that is that the city passed its worker retention and living wage ordinances as a result of that. So, you know, if you're looking to be supportive of labor, it's not, his track record's not there. The second one would be that when his first airport scandal would be the one with the hiring of Hubble. It was something that he did as the chair of that commission without authority from the board, and that he did it in an effort to keep it out of public transparency. I would ask that this board would prioritize transparency. It led to international headlines, what he did. And then, of course, we have the second airport scandal, which was about hosting fundraisers for folks at his home. Despite the fact that there was a clear ordinance at the time that prohibited fundraising, he quibbled at the edges of it, that, oh, just having it at my home didn't count, which led to a revision of our ordinance that doesn't allow commissioners to host fundraisers. And something, Mr. Schlageter, despite your vote, I know that you're aware of because I
Thank you
looked
so
back
much
at
for
the count, and that was something that you spoke in favor of passing as a reform.
Thank you so much for our time. Next speaker, go ahead.
Hi, Mike Feinstein, former Santa Monica mayor, speaking on 1 and 4. I participated in the 1999 process, arguing for ranked choice voting at that time. At that time, very few cities in the country were using it. Now, over 60 cities, counties, and states all use it. So there's a much better record that we can learn from, including Portland, which had a people of color led charter reform commission, which recommended ranked choice voting from multi-seat districts by proportional representation. So I hope whoever is your new chair ensures that this item is agendized sufficiently, fully flesh it out, and then August 22nd, you vote to continue to look into it. One of the benefits, LA uses this ridiculous 2-round contingent runoff system where you have lower turnout, less diverse voters in the spring primary choosing who gets on the November ballot, or if there's only 2 candidates, choosing the winner. This is crazy in a place like Los Angeles. Ranked choice voting allows you to have a single general election when everybody participates, so you have higher and more diverse turnout making these important decisions on behalf of the city. The November elections are false majorities because you only have 2 candidates instead of the 6 or 7 or 8 that you would have had in a primary, and a better debate that comes from it. So ranked choice voting gives you that as well. And you don't have to worry about the spoiler question, which we now have. Who do you vote for in the primary? The one who might make it to November or the one who best represents you? It's nuts that we're forced into that kind of dynamic. By having a single election in November, your public financing dollars, both from your matching fund system that you have now, and maybe the democracy vouchers, are used for 1 election instead of 2, they go further. Makes much more sense, makes the system more sustainable. And in terms of voting rights, right now we have a system that pits Black versus brown versus Asian versus other communities to win single seat, 0-sum elections. Why not allow diversity from within each district? All win seats and all
Thank you
have
so much
seats
for
at
our
the
time.
table. Thank you.
Thank you, go ahead.
Rob on items 1 and 4, and on behalf of those at home, I do want to say we wish we had video here. We're gonna have Rafe Sonnenschein here. We're super excited, and I think one thing that's important to emphasize is a major difference with the 99 commission is they had an elected commission that had the unique power to get around the council and go directly to the ballot. Another really big difference is that those charter coalitions were built under a Mayor Bradley, a Mayor Reardon, Garcetti, those that were actually leading the effort. With those charter commissions, they played an active role. Our mayors played an active role in holding up this commission for the better part of a year. Overcoming these dual limitations in a short timeline shows why it will be harder than 99 and why we need a leader used to building broad-based coalitions. I do want to correct the record. I submitted a written public comment around Commissioner Stein's misleading statements regarding a memo that was referenced in the chair vote. And unfortunately, even though that was sent before 9 a.m., wasn't included in the comment. I worry that this is a preview of what some referred to as Tedzilla back in the day. Due to the way he operated at City Hall. We have to remember why we are here, why we are trying to break from the old ways of City Hall. This commission is born from scandal. Weezer, Englander, Ridley Thomas, Martinez, Cepillo, De Leon, Price. Our local press might not want to pay much attention to you at the moment, but I promise you, they will at your first misstep. I think Commissioner Stein as chair will immediately put this commission on the defensive as to field questions about scandals from decades ago. More than anything, I don't think we should underestimate our challenge in building support amongst our council. That is the end game. To even get to the ballot. Why was Nuri Martinez able to gut the redistricting commission's maps? Because the commission ran off the rails and the community didn't support the maps. The dysfunction was her welcoming map to gut it. We cannot allow this opportunity, the first time in 26 years, to end up in the council graveyard. So please, think long and hard about it.
Thank you, Ty. Go ahead.
Thanks. I'm not sure how much time I get, but thank you. It's my understanding that Commissioner Ted Stein has been involved in a wealth of scandals in the city of Los Angeles. I'm quite frankly not sure why he's even on this commission. Hi, Carla. But it's obvious that he shouldn't be serving on the executive committee of this commission. I find it really interesting that the way the city's been embroiled in scandal in the short time that I've been involved in civics in Los Angeles, which has been roughly for the past 2.5 to 4 years with varying levels of involvement. It seems like the nepotism runs really deep. The sort of incestuous involvement runs really deep. And I definitely don't have a lot of faith in a board that's been appointed by the very politicians who we need more accountability from. But I think today the least you could do is make sure you keep Ted Stein off of the executive committee. And I hope that this charter is sincerely listening to the people and are not going the way of city council, which is to sit in front of your audience, ignore everything that's said, and then do what's most politically expedient. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just to check, is this our last speaker? Fantastic, we'll close the list.
Sorry, I just rolled in, so can you just explain to me real quick, like the procedure for the public comment? Is it like item and public comment, or how's that work?
You have 2 minutes to speak and to speak on topics on the agenda today.
Okay, cool, so it's just 2 minutes for all of the above?
Time starting now.
Okay, real quick, thank you guys for facing the public. We go to city council and we see them a lot of times standing up there chit chatting, having snacks, joking around, talking with lobbyists, having side conversations, being on their phones, literally stuffing their mouths with food and not listening to the public comment. So regardless of any kind of personal shit, I don't know if this means anything, but thank you for actually just looking at the public in their face. You'd be surprised how hard it is to get your city representatives to look at you while you're speaking to them. Now, the pleasantries are over. I don't really see the point in having a charter board reform commission appointed by the people that the public is dissatisfied with. Like you have the mayor and the council appointing and approving people without their financial disclosures being completely approved and going through the process. And we don't trust the mayor and the council anyway. So it's like, and I think Mayor Karen Bass might have had something to do with the last time we like hit the charter. So it's like, it's weird. We have like someone that was involved 20 years ago who used to be a congressman. She's super wrapped up in the system that the public is dissatisfied with. And she's gonna again have a hand in rewriting the charter, which is just kind of crazy to me. Like, how can you look at the public? At least y'all look at us in the face, but how can you look at them in the face knowing that the people that they don't trust appointed you and approved you? And then on top of that, know that the people that made the charter that people were dissatisfied with are now rewriting the new one in the middle of all these crazy scandals, or we have like council members that have to recuse themselves all the time because they are currently in a trial for not recusing themselves because of conflict of interest. I mean, like the public is completely like distrustful of the city and the city government. So it just seems kind of backwards to have the people that are supposed to rewrite the stuff to satisfy the public appointed and approved by those people. I don't know, I wanted to give anybody a shot,
And thank you, Tom.
but please don't, eliminate your vote.
We now move on to approval of minutes from our last meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Who had that motion? Commissioner Sanchez. Is there a second on the motion?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Stein seconds. Discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Schlatter.
I have a couple issues with the minutes. If, so, two items, one was the item of the approval of the outreach plan. The minutes state that, we included a note about neighborhood councils.
Yes, that exact verbiage is being added to the neighborhood council, to the outreach plan.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
That exact verbiage that was read out loud during the council, during the commission meeting is being added to the outreach plan.
Okay, so when we approve the minutes as a public record, I mean, I don't expect someone to go back through every audio file to find out the details of our discussion, so in terms of how that's added in the future, if someone is then looking at our minutes, is that gonna be reflected in the minutes?
The minutes were prepared by the clerk's office and they felt that that was sufficient, to meet their standard.
Okay, so, I don't agree with that, just as number one.
Understood. We can,
Number two,
sir, if you want, we can add the exact verbiage into the minutes if you'd like.
I would recommend that, even if it takes us to approval of the minutes in the future, meeting. Number two, I didn't think that the depiction of our votes for chair accurately reflected how the votes were taken. It states as if in choosing among two candidates, we were voting no on a candidate, actively voting no. I certainly did not vote no on our interim chair, Mr. Mesa. And so I don't believe that the way that was written was accurately reflecting the procedure of the vote, which was, we went through one vote, said one name of two. And the only thing listed in the minutes is that we voted no on somebody, and that's not accurate. Despite the practical reality that you're choosing one over another, I was not actively voting no on Chair Mesa. I think the minutes should reflect that correctly. So if there's other commissioners who agree that those two items could be reflected better in the minutes, I would recommend that we ask staff to revise those and bring it back at the next meeting for approval.
Okay, again, that was the way, not being,
Still,
official method.
sir, staff, please, Mr. Ramirez, don't misunderstand, I'm not criticizing what you produced.
I didn't.
I recognize that came from city clerk.
Yeah.
And that is provided to us for comment, and I made my comment. Thank you.
Are there any, I would like to put myself in the queue, but are there any other commissioners?
Well, I would like to incorporate Commissioner Schlager's points into approving of the minutes, that they be included in those minutes if we're approving them.
Commissioner Stein, can you make that in the form of an amendment, please?
Yes, I would like to amend the approval of the minutes to the extent of the recommendations that were just made in terms of how people voted on the commission director. It wasn't a no vote in terms that somebody had to audibly say, no, I'm not for Commissioner Stein, or I'm not for Commissioner Mesa. And it should reflect, there were so many votes for Commissioner Stein, there were so many votes for Commissioner Mesa. I also want to incorporate on the outreach, because I think that is extremely important due to the fact that if our outreach fails, our efforts fail. So I think it's important that that be incorporated.
I second the motion. The motion before us is, Commissioner Stein, just to clarify, your motion is to amend, but to approve with those changes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so before us, commissioners, is a motion to amend the approval of the minutes with the recommended changes, as just outlined. Is there any discussion on that amendment? Commissioner Field.
Just for clarity, I know we don't have anyone here today from city clerk or city attorney. Who will make sure that those changes are implemented in the document? I don't know if one of our staff.
That's my job, to work with the clerk on, implementing those, yeah. Yeah, and I'll talk to them, to the commissioner's point, that's the way they prepared them. It was different from how it was executed, on the vote at least. I don't know if that was just their interpretation or a parliamentary procedure thing, but I'll have that conversation and figure out the next step forward. It could end up that that's like legally the way the vote had to be recorded. But I'll report back to the commission if that's the case. If that's the case, again, I don't know yet, but if it's not the case and we get to amend the minutes, then I won't have to come back.
Commissioner Stein and then Commissioner Thomas. Commissioner Stein.
I have one question as a point of clarification. Who actually writes the minutes? Is it clerk's office or is it?
The clerk's office writes the minutes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Thomas.
Yes, I wasn't here, unfortunately. I was supposed to be out of the country, but he was. But I want to say two things in there. Number one, this is very, very important business that we're doing, and within context, my understanding is that this is the Los Angeles Charter Reform Commission, not the Los Angeles Revised the Charter Commission. There is a significant difference. And so we have had significant public comment, talk about the kinds of things that they want to see. And I think we should get on with that. My opinion is very simple. If I did not vote for a certain person in office, I voted no on that person by voting in favor of someone else in terms of the presidential office. And so I think it is important. However I choose to vote, I'm voting no on the other person. And it's not a personal thing. It's just simply that I think that someone else might serve the city better than the other person. So it's not a negative thing, but I think we have to stop trying to excuse away our commitment to the people of Los Angeles. This is a mess that we're in. And it's our responsibility, as I see it, to clean it up. And if we're not going to include all of the voices in Los Angeles, whether we like those voices or not, whether they yell and scream at us or not, then we're not serious about the work that we need to do. And so I just wanted to make that comment. However I vote, it will not be against either one of you. It will not be against either one of you. Ultimately, though, if I'm recording the minutes, I think it should reflect that there were some choices that were made over another choice, and that's what I think the minutes reflect.
Are there any other commissioners who wish to discuss the amendment? Okay, seeing none, I'll take a roll call vote on the amendment. So the motion before us is to approve the minutes with an amendment to include the changes that were discussed. Okay, Commissioner Andrades.
Aye.
Commissioner Field. I'll remind commissioners to please speak in the mic. Commissioner Fuentes.
Aye.
Commissioner Lewis.
Aye.
Commissioner Matt.
Aye.
Commissioner Murray.
Aye.
Vice Chair Sanchez.
Aye.
Commissioner Schlatter.
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner Stein.
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Yap,
Aye.
Chair Mesa, yes, okay. The motion as amended is now before us. Is there any discussion on the motion as amended? Motion as amended is to approve the minutes with the changes. All right, seeing no discussion, is there any objection to approving the motion as amended? All right, without objection. Thank you, commissioners. We now move to neighborhood council comments / community impact statements. Are there any present that have approved community impact statements relevant to today's proceedings? Seeing none, now our executive director would like to give a brief report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This will be very brief. Thank you, commissioners. I mainly want to update you all on the outstanding appointment to this commission. I've spoken with the council president pro tem's office, and they are in the process of interviewing folks for the appointment. I am meeting further with them next week to give them an update on this commission's work and to get their update on their progress towards sending this appointee. So that is the latest on that. Further, I wanted to report based on conversations had at this commission meeting last week that staff will be working on bringing to this commission committees for commissioners to serve on, at least at first to take a look at the additional issues that the commissioners would like to study for the charter amendments. These are issues that were discussed last week. It's zeroing on topics that weren't a part of the original outreach plan. So we'll be working on committees for this commission to serve on for that. I will bring that to a future agenda. Last, I want to say that I will be bringing more detail to the commission on city fabric in the coming days. I'm also working with city attorney's office just on communication on past agenda items in relation to how I communicate. So I just wanted to cross those T's and dot those I's before I communicate to you all on that past agenda item. But updates to come. That concludes my report.
Great. We now move on to item 1, and I again will turn over this item to our vice chair.
Thank you, Chair Mesa. I want to take a moment to welcome Commissioners Thomas and Fuentes to their first meeting today. And thank you to Councilmember Lee for hosting us in the beautiful San Fernando Valley. We move on to item number 1. It's carried over from Wednesday's meeting, the election of commission chair. Do we have a nomination for chair? I'd like to start with nominating chair Commissioner Mesa. Is there a second?
I second that motion.
Sorry, it's first by Sanchez.
Second by
Second by
Andrades.
Andrades.
Any other nominations?
If I may, for the sake of discussion and to allow candidates to be able to present themselves again beyond the single meeting, I will nominate Commissioner Stein, please.
Thank you, Commissioner Schlottiger. Do we have a second?
For purposes of hearing from both candidates, I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Field. Are there any other nominations for chair? Perfect. I'd like to now give the microphone over to both. We'll start with Commissioner Stein. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. I'm sorry. Interrupt somebody?
I'm hitting the timer for you, sir. Go.
I believe that I am the most qualified person to be chair of this commission. Based upon my experience in serving this city under 4 mayors as president of the Harbor, Airport, and Planning Commissions. But what was really disturbing to me in today's packet that the commissioners received, as well as 1 or 2 speakers who spoke today, they talked about wrongdoing that I had done allegedly 20-some years ago. What wasn't included in that packet is that I was forced to protect my good name by having to hire an attorney and to spend over $200,000 in legal fees for something that I had done nothing wrong. Also not included in the packet were letters from the United States Attorney's Public Corruption Division the district attorney's public corruption division, and the ethics department, all stating that I had not done anything improper, and the city ended up reimbursing me for the majority of my legal fees. What also was missing in today's story is that I was confirmed for this commission on a 15-0 vote. It's not a coincidence that the story by Ted Rorlick, which was distributed today, that was published in the LA Times, I believe some 20 years ago, I didn't look at the date of it, was the person that many people have alluded to. But what people may not know is that after Mr. Rorlick left the LA Times, he went to work for the SEIU, the organization, as a researcher, the organization that Mr. Meza is the vice president or second in command of. I'm offended that anybody would stoop to this level of politics, including Mr. Meza, and try to make a decision on who should chair this commission based upon a false, derogatory story that had been cleared by 3 prosecutorial agencies. I have never been, and I never will be in anybody's pocket. And I know that that can rub some people the wrong way.
Thank you, Commissioner Time.
No, I have 4 minutes, excuse me.
She said 3.
I said 3, it was 2 to 3. It was 2 usually, and I gave you another minute.
Well, thank you.
Thank you,
It
Commissioner.
is a difficult task of chairing a commission efficiently
Commissioner
and
Stein, 30 seconds more. 30 seconds more. Thank you.
Your call.
I would think that I would have the right to defend myself, even if it took a little extra time. I have no problem with Mr. Meza getting the exact same extra time for anything that he would say. Otherwise, it looks like nobody wants to hear the truth of what happened. And I resent that.
Thank you, Commissioner Stein. Please proceed.
It's a difficult task of chairing a commission. Meetings get very contentious.
30 seconds.
And basically, we need to figure out a way to do things more efficiently. We started out with basically 18 to 20 meetings. It went to 29. And that was out any consultation with the commission. I don't know how many of my fellow commissioners, even though I'm retired, have the time to put in those efforts. And as for the outreach, I'm gonna have to make this brief. We hired a company that is based in Long Beach, that is known for its planning and land use matters. They have never, ever tackled something as difficult as charter reform. And the crux of the matter is, this team did not reflect the community, and it did not reflect the makeup of this commission. Basically, there were no African Americans that I could see on the website that were there, but most importantly, council districts 8, 9, and 10 are African American led. And there's no reason why there should not be an addition to their team to include local hiring and local people familiar with those. Again, they are based in Long Beach, a city of 450,000, and they're asked to do something here in a city of approximately 4 million. Time is limited, so I'm gonna have to bring this to a close. But normal charter commission actions would take, and I think Mr. Sonnenschein, who I've not spoken with, would say it probably would take 1, 2, probably closer to 2 years to totally reform the charter. We don't have that time. We're not going to be able to do it.
Thank you, Commissioner Stein. I now give the floor to Chair Mesa.
Colleagues and fellow stewards of Los Angeles' future, It is with deep humility and profound respect for each of you that I rise today to ask for your vote as chair of this historic commission. We gather at a critical moment in Los Angeles's journey, one that will define the city not only for the next decade, but for generations to come. We are standing on a precipice between what has been and what could be, between the memory of institutional failures and the promise of civic renewal, between systems that have too often faltered and a people demanding for something better. This commission is not simply a bureaucratic task force. It is a rare opportunity to reimagine how justice, trust, equity, and accountability are embedded in the very DNA of our city's governance, and to earn back the confidence of communities who have grown cynical, not because they lack love for this city, but because that love has too often been met with disappointment. Leadership in this moment requires more than procedural fluency or long resumes. It calls for clarity of purpose, integrity beyond reproach, and a deep connection to the diverse communities we are here to serve. It requires courage not just to protect the past, but to build the future. I bring to this role a deep commitment to transparency, a proven track record of collaborative leadership, and a clear vision rooted in equity and effectiveness. I do not seek the chair out of ego or ambition, but because I believe I can help us create a process that is inclusive, principled, and transformative. We must be a commission of conscience, not simply content with technical fixes, but determined to ask hard questions and deliver bold, workable solutions. The people of Los Angeles are not looking for symbolism. They are looking for substance. I believe we can model the very values we want our charter to reflect: integrity, fairness, shared power, and new beginnings. And I am ready to help lead that charge alongside each and every one of you. I ask for your partnership and your vote, not as a judgment on anyone else, but as a step forward toward the honest, hopeful, and accountable future Los Angeles deserves. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Mesa. I will now conduct a roll call vote. When I say your name, please state your choice. Commissioner Andrades,
Commissioner Meza.
Commissioner Field,
I'm keeping a commitment, but I will be happy with whatever the choice of this commission is. Commissioner Stein.
thank you. Commissioner Fuentes,
Commissioner Mesa.
Commissioner Lewis,
Commissioner Mesa.
Commissioner Mack,
Commissioner Stein.
Commissioner Murray, Vice Chair Sanchez, Commissioner Mesa, Commissioner Schlotiger,
It's my opinion that, this body is not going to be dictated by this single vote. I'm gonna maintain at this time my vote for Commissioner Stein, for the reasons of experience that I had been, attracted to him originally. Thank you.
thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Stein,
Commissioner Stein.
thank you. Commissioner Thomas,
Well, based upon what I've heard, I wasn't at the last meeting. But I do think that it's important for change. And while I can appreciate the vast amount of experience of Commissioner Stein, I appreciate it. However, I think one of the things that's happened in this city is we haven't been prepared or capable, as it seems, to pass the baton. There is a time, and I think the time is now, to pass the baton. I would hope that inasmuch as if it is in fact that the baton is passed, that Commissioner Stein would be even more committed to making sure that the new person is successful. Again, this is not personal. This is our responsibility, this is our obligation. And we have to do what is in the best interest of the people of Los Angeles as it relates to how we personally feel. And so while I don't know either one of them, I'm always going to lean towards people who are committed to change and people who are not a part of the old guard. And I don't say that to be disrespectful or to be mean-spirited. We have to be willing to be the change we want to see. And sometimes doing that, it takes risk. And so for whoever is elected, I am committed to making sure that they are successful in as much as I am committed to making sure that every person who resides in this city has a real voice, This will not be a bureaucratic process for me. It will not be. And so in saying all of that, I'm voting for Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. Commissioner Yap?
I would be pleased with the leadership of either of the candidates, and I admire their strong interest in this role. I'm voting for Commissioner Stein.
Thank you. Chair Mesa?
Commissioner Mesa.
Thank you very much. Director, can you confirm the votes, please?
Yes, Madam Vice Chair, I have 7 votes for Mesa, 5 votes for Stein. The election required 7 votes. So, interim chair, is not me, Chair.
Thank you.
We will now move to our next item on the agenda, the election of a vice chair. Do we have any nominations? Commissioner Murray nominates Commissioner Sanchez. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Lewis seconds. Are there any other nominations for vice chair?
This is Commissioner Yap. I nominate myself for vice chair.
I second that.
Right, there is a nomination for Commissioner Yap from Commissioner Yap and a second from Commissioner Stein. I am happy to give each, oh, excuse me, are there any other nominations for vice chair? Okay, seeing none, I am happy to give each candidate 2 to 3 minutes to provide a statement. Commissioner Yap.
Thank you, fellow commissioners. It would be an honor to serve as your vice chair. And first, I'd like to thank the many who supported my appointment to this position. Leaders from across LA in advocacy, equity, law, education, media, and small business, as well as elected officials and coalitions like Our LA, along with nonprofit and civic partners like LA Forward. Together, this is a group representing thousands of voices across the city. And I'm here because of their belief in an inclusive governance for this historic commission. I'm passionate about this work and the opportunity we have to reflect LA's diversity, complexity, and values in how we govern. I share in many ways what Commissioner Thomas just said about a lot of the change that we must be. We've heard clearly in public comments about key themes of transparent governance and inclusive outreach. Themes that build trust. I believe our success as a commission will be shaped by how well we run our meetings and run our agendas and decide them with clarity, confidence, and fairness, and how we create a space for thoughtful, informed, and inclusive discussion. This requires leadership grounded in trust and in structure. I've spent my 25-year legal career advising leaders, boards, and executives through decisions and meetings in these same themes. with these same themes. I have the experience in a variety of settings and industries. As a business leader, I've been a legal executive in public and mid-cap and Fortune 500 companies. Also advising public and private corporate boards. I've helped guide organizations through risk, anti-corruption efforts, reform. And I've experienced it in small business as a co-founder of a technology business based in Greater LA. As a civic and community leader, I served as president of the East LA Area Planning Commission, chairing public meetings. And I've led many initiatives as a board member of nonprofits serving underrepresented communities and first-generation college students. Leadership in these roles has meant knowing when to listen, when to guide, and how to bring order to complex issues. It's meant creating open environments where progress can be made in the midst of respectful disagreement. Whether the work has been rules-based or emotionally charged, strong leadership must always include trust and structure.
15 seconds.
I'll bring this broad leadership to this role as vice chair, and I'll do my best to support Chairman Meza. I'll focus on process, yes, but also people, so that we can have a charter that reflects the vision and voices of the commission in our city of Los Angeles. Thank you, and I hope to have your vote.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Thank you, Chair Mesa. For those of you who don't know me, I am a longtime resident of the San Fernando Valley, currently reside in CD7. I am a longtime communicator, having worked for Spanish language television. I'm very aware of the fabric of the city, running many multicultural campaigns and marketing outreach. So the experience I bring, and I know that a lot of us have specific skill sets, is my commitment to this reform and what the city is going to look like. Charter reform is not just a bureaucratic exercise. It is a once in a generation opportunity to reimagine how the city of Los Angeles governs, serves, and is held accountable. As vice chair, my role will be to lead when the chair cannot, to convene, and to be a bridge builder. And I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners. I am now going to conduct a roll call vote. When you say your name, please state your preferred candidate. Commissioner Andrades.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Commissioner Field.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Commissioner Fuentes.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Commissioner Lewis.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Commissioner Matt.
Commissioner Yap.
Commissioner Murray. Vice Chair Sanchez.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Commissioner Schlatter.
Commissioner Sanchez, thank you.
Commissioner Stein.
Commissioner Yap.
Commissioner Thomas.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Commissioner Yap.
Commissioner Yap.
Chair Mesa. Commissioner Sanchez. Commissioner Sanchez, you are duly elected as vice chair. All right, I now go turn our business to the next item, which is election of the second vice chair. Do we have any nominations for second vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Murray.
Is that Commissioner, there's a nomination for Commissioner Murray from Commissioner Sanchez. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I hear Field's voice was closest.
Okay, Commissioner Field seconds. Are there additional nominations for the position of second vice chair?
I could nominate Commissioner Yap.
Is Commissioner Stein nominates Commissioner Yap. Is there a second?
I second.
Commissioner Mack seconds. Are there any further nominations for the position of second vice chair? Seeing none, I am happy to give each candidate 2 to 3 minutes to make a statement. Commissioner Murray.
I'll make this very brief because I really want to get on to the speakers. I have extensive experience in leadership. I was recently president of the City Ethics Commission, and I'm a practicing lawyer for over 30 years in the district attorney's office. I don't want to get bogged down in administrative tasks and petty infighting. I am ready to get onto the business of this commission, which is hearing from the community and trying to make Los Angeles a better place. And I appreciate the nomination from my fellow commissioners. Thank you.
Commissioner Yap.
Thank you. I have very similar comments to what I just shared, so I think we can get on with the vote as well.
Thank you, commissioners. I will conduct a roll call vote. When I say your name, please state your preferred candidate. Commissioner Andrades.
Commissioner Murray.
Commissioner Field.
Commissioner Murray.
Commissioner Fuentes.
Commissioner Murray.
Commissioner Lewis.
Commissioner Murray.
Commissioner Mack.
Commissioner Yap.
Commissioner Murray.
Commissioner Murray.
Vice Chair Sanchez.
Commissioner Murray.
Commissioner Schlatter.
Murray.
Commissioner Stein.
Mr. Yap.
Commissioner Thomas.
Murray.
Commissioner Yap.
Commissioner Yap.
Chair Mesa votes for Commissioner Yap. Commissioner Murray, you are duly elected. Congratulations. I would like to thank all the commissioners for their patience. Item 4 is a study session that all of us are very much looking forward to. The history of the Los Angeles Charter. I'm going to turn it over to our staff to facilitate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and congratulations to our executive board of 3 officers. Congratulations to this entire commission for this work today. I'm very excited for us moving forward and for the many great things that this commission will be doing. Today, we have 3 valuable city public servants of past, present, and future, again, at some point, which would make Dickens proud. Eric Schaffman and Rafe Sonnenschein were both leaders of the 2 1999 commissions on charter reform. And Chris Espinoza is from our Office of the Legislative Analyst. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and we're going to start with Eric to give his presentation. And commissioners, we're going to give each of these speakers about 10 to 15 minutes to speak, and we'll do equal amount of time of 10 to 15 minutes of discussion led by our chair.
Really quick comment here, in the spirit of transparency. I left my pen in the car every morning. So I usually take notes on my phone. So I just want you all to know, as you see me on my phone doing this, I'm taking notes, all right? So you all know that really thing.
I've got all your text messages.
I'll probably still take notes on my phone.
All right, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Great. Let me introduce myself. First of all, I am not Erwin Chemerinsky. For those of you who are expecting Erwin Chemerinsky, he is in Berkeley filing lawsuits against the orange animal. Tough shit. Commissioners, congratulations. You have a lot of work to do. For leadership, congratulations. You have even more work to do. So get ready. For staff, I don't know what to tell you. I don't even know how to advise you. I just know that Erwin Chemerinsky was my soulmate for many years. I'm Dr. Schaffman. I was at the time the pro bono policy director for the elected Charter Commission. Why was I pro bono? Because USC hated Erwin Chemerinsky, because Erwin Chemerinsky took on the leadership at USC and wanted, because he was chair, I'll tell you stories because these stories are rich. Erwin Chemerinsky was chair of the faculty at the time, and he wanted Steve Sample to allow gay people to have jobs and to have equal rights at USC. And Steve Sample said, no way, Jose, we don't give them equal pay. This was 1999, of course. And we're going, Irwin, shut up, shut up. So Irwin, of course, volunteers for the commission. And they couldn't do anything for Irwin. He's in the law school. Shockman comes along and Irwin says, I want Shockman as my policy director. And at that time, I was associate dean. They could control me. I wasn't on the faculty. They then could control my pay. And they said, no way, Shockman, we can control you. You can teach part-time, but you have to do it pro bono at evenings and weekends. That's what I did. On evening and weekend, the chart. And it was fun as hell. So that's where I started. I did policy along with Irwin Chemerinsky, and we worked day and night, he mostly day and night, and we put our commission together. And let me tell you more stories about what we did. And by the way, I just have to be very clear. I'm out of here in about 20 minutes because I promised our distinguished executive director under the conditions that I would come today. Same time, 6 months ago, I started planning a 40th reunion for many of you may remember him, city councilman, first Asian elected member of the city council. His name is Michael Wu, is coming to my house, along with 58, maybe 60 now, former staff members who adore him, who are coming to my house to celebrate him, and I have to be there. So I'm not here. I will say my piece. I will take some of your questions, of course, as well as, and I'm always available to the commission. But I have to be with Mike Wu. I'm sorry where my loyalty reside. But seriously, I will give you some of my insights, but let me tell you more than that. So I'm gonna split early, but let me tell you more than that. You have among you a living treasure, not me. You have one person in this audience who I treasure. His name is Rafe Shunenshaw. Rafe, would you stand up? Yeah. Come on, let's hear it for Rafe. Rafe, stand up. Rafe, stand up. Okay, let me tell you about Rafe. Rafe is a dedicated educator. He is embodied the city of Los Angeles in heart, soul, and mind, although he lives in Santa Monica. But I can tell you that Rafe and I have crisscrossed our careers throughout our tenure as academics, as practitioners in urban government. And Rafe, to me, is my mentor. He literally has sacrificed his soul for the city. When he got appointed to really run along with George Kiefer, the appointed charter commission, it was a blessing. Because we knew at the end this was going to merge. I think there was a real instinct among us on the staff level and two other individuals outside of us that were pressuring us. John Mack and Eli Grove. Remember Eli Grove? He made a little museum out there. Powerhouses at the time. Powerhouses in their own legitimate rights of what they did for the city of LA. But let me tell you that was critical to merge us, because what we were doing in silos meant a lot for the city in how we came together. We were working literally in our own bastions. But what happened in our own worlds really did deserve to come together to function as a unison of what could benefit the city of LA. let me cut to the chase, okay? Let me tell you my analysis. Now, remember, this is 28 years ago, so I can't remember what I had for breakfast, let alone the details of all the 28 years of what passed. But let me give you the synopsis of what I can probably give you the remembrance of the totality of how I would think of this, and that may help stimulate some of your questions. So this is the teaser. This is the end all. How it all turned out. First of all, we got 60% of the vote in 1999. 60% of the vote of LA came out and voted for the charter. Not bad. We convinced them. We said, so the language is important, folks. Remember, Justin, the language is important. You have to test the language before you go to the voters. Do not play around with, I think maybe they understand us. No, you better know what you're putting out in the language. So critical language formation. I don't think we had, did we have posters at the time? Not more or less, yeah. So I think we were really sort of skittish, but we went out and put it on the ballot. So number one, make sure the ballot is really clear to voters when they get it. Secondly, I think we'll start at the conclusion on how sort of the benefits of the elected and the benefits of the appointed really panned out, at least in my estimation. Rafe, you may have a different revisionist history of all this, so you can give your shtick after I give mine. But this is, I think, how I would sort of put it together, and then I'll sort of open it up for points of light from you all. But I think I came out with the following. And let me also say, it's about leadership. At the end of the day, I think at the end of the day, it's about leadership. It's about who leads you. So remember that. It's about the characters both in this town and outside. Don't forget that leadership counts. You will feel the pains of people coming to you. You'll feel the slings and arrows of that. At the end of the day, you have to vote both your conscience and you have to vote what's good for the people of LA. At the end of the day, that's a leadership issue, and you have a short leash, as you have heard. That short leash will, I think, magnify all this. So be prepared. At the end of the day, I think I would surmise it to the following. So the elected Charter Commission brought the following. I think we lean progressive, populist. Progressive and populist, emphasizing local empowerment and transparency. And that was probably because of Rafe, because of his liberal tint, because of his constitutional basis of his law, constitutional basis as a law professor. A lot of also people on at that time, Gloria Romero was on our commission. Some other people, Dennis Zine, who was then on the commission, who went on to be, I think he was representing part of the Valley at that time. Who else? There were a lot of progressives who followed sort of the leadership of that. And I'd say the appointed took a more pragmatic, again, you give your interpretation of this. I think the appointed commission brought a more pragmatic, institutional approach. And maybe that's the kind of balance that I saw from sort of my perch. And I thought that prioritizing mostly operational clarity and a balance of power. So I think when we started those silos, I thought we sort of began from those two entities, that we were sort of teeter-tottering in those two frameworks that sort of brought those forces, and those were macro forces. Now, it doesn't mean that we weren't we also were worried about balance of power and how that would, pan out. The final charter reflected, of course, the compromise. And we leaned towards the elected commission, our neighborhood councils. Who is our neighborhood councils? So congratulations, we birthed you. How do you feel birthed? We birthed you. But let me tell you, we didn't birth you as you are now. Erwin sent me up to Minnesota, he sent me to Portland, he sent me all around the country. He said, you go find me the best neighborhood councils. We're gonna give them money, we're gonna give them early warning systems, we're gonna give them empowerment, we're gonna give them training so that they will produce a threat to the council. Oh, really, Erwin? Okay, let's see how that goes. Yeah, let's see how that goes, Erwin. Yeah, that was a good one. So we didn't get too far on that one. Remember, compromise, but we got neighborhood council progressive point that LA still has. You know, more, right, it's not perfect, it's even less than perfect, okay? But, you know, again, that was our baby. They said, okay, we bought in for that. Neighborhood councils again were, also, I think a lot of the ethics reforms came from sort of our compromised, perspective. And also the institutionalization, I think we both agreed at the end was critical in really sort of making sure that, you know, we had a coherent, charter with a lot of, you know, the reason we had Swiss cheese holes at the end was that it was a compromise, folks. We couldn't do everything. We could not do everything that we wanted, neither the appointed nor the elected. And it was time bound, but, you know, again, I thought we got as much as we could, given the circumstances of the day. So you look at 1999, 28 years later, you now have to open the hood and start from scratch. Open that hood of that vehicle and start from scratch. And don't take anything we've done as gossip. Just rewrite the shit out of it. All right, I could go into specifics, but I think my time is limited and so is the commission. So let me start with the commissioners first. Are there any questions from you all? Mr. Stein.
Did you pay out to revise the charter time-wise?
So it was about 2 years. Yeah. But again, other questions?
How long you on?
Let me ask the commission.
What'd you get wrong? What should we do?
What did we get wrong? I think neighborhood councils have to be revisited for sure. I think the ethics in this city continue to be pay and play, my own personal opinion. I think my own personal opinion is that the city continues to be a swamp for developers. And this is enough. If you want to make a cleaner city, you have to tighten who gets to develop. Not to say the city doesn't need to be developed. Develop the city. We have a lot of people who are poor who need homes, but develop it right and make sure. I don't need that. But make sure that people are housed. And when we were dealing with the charter also, there was no homeless issue. That was, you know, came after, that was Garcetti's time. But now that's a new factor that has to be factored in, but that includes the housing potential. So I'd say ethics was not really ever tightened up. Neighborhood councils, I definitely think Rafa has, I'm sure, a laundry list of issues. I think the civil service issue really has to be re-examined as well. Go ahead.
Commissioner.
Thank you for your time. Super appreciate the historic part of the reform 26 years ago.
28.
28. 28 years ago was very different than it is today. So we didn't have social media, digital media, 60% of the vote. It is amazing. Hardly what you get now, especially with such a polarized community. Any tips on getting through the clutter and getting to what is important to move this through?
Well, yeah, I think, you know, people are looking for, they're looking for they're looking for leaders, they're looking for people who talk to them from the grassroots. You know, I think if you talk from, you know, a sense of righteousness, if you talk, when Clue talks to them, you know, the clergy talks to them, I see their eyes open up. When a Father Boyle talks to them, when a religious leader, not so much from a secular point, but they talk secular. They talk about justice, they talk about housing, they talk about the religious way that we should be conducting ourselves in a righteous manner. And that we should be treating ourselves in a righteous manner. If you can bring those people before you and have those people talk on your behalf, I think you may be winning half the battle. I don't say you need a bandstand of religious ordering to carry your message, but I think those people listen to the messengers. And I find that maybe we should build some bridges, especially in LA. You know, especially when people have lost faith in every pillar of hope. The media's gone, schools are gone, you know, every pillar has sort of disappeared. So what's left? I mean, give it a chance. Just think of what you can build on that's already in the community. And that's what I'd say, Commissioner. There's very little sort of transparency or lineage left in LA. I grew up here. I was born in New York, but I grew up here. This is my home. And I'm not leaving. And I just think the salvaging of LA is in the communities, and let it percolate upwards, not downwards. And that's what I'd say where it comes from. Yes, sir.
Did you, oh, thank you. When you reformed the charter, did it stop in city council first, or did it go straight to the voters on the ballot?
I'm sorry, I can't.
When you reformed the charter, did it go straight to the voters, or did it stop in city council first?
Well, in your case, it would have to go to your patron. You would have to go back to your appointing entity, which, you know, is your commission, your council. Now, correct me, executive director, right?
But he's asking specifically what your
Yeah, what can you do? Yeah, because I think it's different incentives and motivation.
But nothing prevents you from then, whatever your determination in council is taking it to the people. It seems to me if you build momentum correctly, and it seems like you've empowered this body to move, and you've enlightened a community at large, that you now have an answer, irrespective of your handlers. You have a right to, if you have the answer, why would you keep it to them? Why would you let them nix it? I would say you have power as a citizen commissioner. This is my opinion. I am, you know, I can talk because I'm an academic and I can say anything I want, but you have power to then go to the people and put it on the ballot. So nothing is beyond you and your empowerment to then take it with a dutiful ballot to the people.
Question. So I
think you have more commissioners, and I do want to take one or two.
So I really like what you said about the importance of language, how critical that is. I also like what you said about the tone of that language, speaking from an equity lens, essentially, is what I gather you're referring to. Right. And you also talked about 28 years ago being sent across the country to different cities to study models there. Are there cities that have gone through this process?
Yep.
That have integrated what you talk about with language, a reform process that was rooted in justice, equity, et cetera, that you think we should look to?
Yep, well, you can look at the city of New York right now. There is here's a preamble to New York City's charter. What's to say you don't have a preamble to your charter? You know, you have a lot of legal stuff that goes on to the charter. Okay, but New York City has a preamble. And it talks about a city, a multi-ethnic democracy. What better way to go like this to the federal government? You can't record that, sir, right?
It's been recorded.
What better way to talk to the federal government by saying LA is a multi-ethnic democracy? Stay away from us. We know who we are. We know what makes us run. We know our demands. We know what makes us click. We know that we have a right. We have values. These are our values. Put it in your preamble. And New York already has it, 2020. Look at their preamble. If they can do it, why can't you? What's to say you can't do a preamble? We tried it. Irwin wanted to try it. We went to Canada. We looked at the Canadian preambles to all their municipalities. We couldn't get it through because 1999, you're talking socialism. We couldn't get it through. Now it's 2025. Try it. Put a preamble to your charter that says, this is where we stand as a city. Challenge the city to meet it. Think about that. And also, let me add to that. What about all the past wrongs the city has done? Does anybody know about the 1871 massacre of the Chinese in Chinatown? Do you want to tell us quickly about it? This is the audience participation part. Then I'll stop. Then I'll stop. Quickly. Quickly.
Actually, can we have them on the mic because it's.
Yeah, quick. What's your name?
Ross Weisdropper. Throughout the 1870s and 1880s, cities across the West Coast conducted ethnic cleansing known as the Pai Hua, which forced ethnic Chinese out of the cities in some places, or destroyed the Chinese.
Yeah, wrong. Oh, wrong. 1871, Chinese massacre, Chinatown, the city of LA covered it up. 18 Chinese were slaughtered in Chinatown. If you don't take my word for it, there's a little plaque outside of the Chinese American Museum that says, we screwed up. The city let 18 defendants go in the 1871. The city never apologized. But don't stop there. Why don't we continue and look at the deportations of Latinos? Why don't we look at the non-apology of AIDS during the AIDS crisis? Why don't we look at the series of other incidents? The city has never apologized for its past regresses. Why don't we offer an apologia in the city charter as a prelude to your actions? So we have a statement of value and we have an apologia. Do it. I challenge you. Do it. Put it out. Tell the people we have conscience. This is the city that has feeling. And then we're going to write the rest of the mechanics, but do it at the end, not in the beginning, because it'll take a lot of heat. Do it at the end, and that's my last point. Thank you. And then I'll take one more.
There's a lot of enthusiasm today for council enlargement. In 99.
Yes, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. What's different?
The question.
Why did it pass and what argument do they make people pass it today?
Why would they pass it today? Well, look at the debacle on the county level when, you know, the county was going to increase it, then they got screwed up with the conflict of J and G I think the answer is, we should have enlarged it years ago. It is poor representation to keep it at 15. And you have more fiefdoms, but better to diffuse representation that way. I gotta run. Thank you. Any more I could be reached later.
I'll make sure the entire commission has, Eric's, contact information.
Thank you. Thank you for your time and everything.
Ray, come on down, please.
The city authorized the work that are not free for
Hello, everybody. It's great to meet you all. Some of you I know, some of you I don't. I always bring with me, not just for you guys, I carry this with me, my charter. If something happened and I lost all of my possessions, I would grab my family first. I would get all the financial documents and then I would get my charter. I'm a charter person through and through. Since the day in 1997 when I was appointed to the position that Justin has as executive director of one of what became two charter reform commissions. I was not a charter person before that. I was a person doing interracial coalition politics as my research. So for those of you who are new to charter reform, my first day on the job was my first day learning about the city charter. And I became hooked, spent 2 full years as executive director of that commission. And then since then worked with about a half dozen other cities in California and even outside California playing the same role. It is wonderful work. So I just want to say, if you're feeling startup stuff going on and challenges in starting up your commission, I'm going to tell you about some of our startup stuff. It is great work and you will look back on this as one of the greatest things you've done in your civic life. Even though it may not yet seem that way, I absolutely assure you of that. And I know that because Erwin Chemerinsky, one of the greatest minds in our country, was asked a number of years ago what was the most rewarding thing he did in his career. And he said, I was chairman of the elected Charter Reform Commission in Los Angeles. So why is that? It's because it gives you a chance to open the door to really being a founder or a refounder, a constitutional designer for your own community. To hear from the community, to not be running for office necessarily and all the things that go along with that, but to be called upon to really look at what's best for the community. It's a phenomenal experience. At the start, it's really weird. It's very difficult. I know that we had 2 years and that seems like we must have landed all ready to go. The first day I had on the job, they gave me an office on the first floor of the Department of Water and Power. And nobody there knew why I was there or what I was doing there. So there was no furniture. There was one landline telephone, no bookshelves, and no staff. And I was a college professor. What the heck did I know about starting an organization? Eventually, I got some help from the CLA's office. You have the CLA over here. That came over and told them they had to give me a desk so I could have a place to put my telephone. So this is really how it started. But we worked it through. But one of the things that happened was we were caught in an incredibly rough conflict at City Hall. So it's a little different from you. We had a mayor and council who loathed each other, personally and professionally. Mayor Richard Reardon had a completely different vision from the majority of the LA City Council members, and a lot of it had to do with who should be really running the city, the mayor or the city council, which turned out to be a long-standing issue. Unheard of in American history, they each created their own charter reform commissions, competing charter reform commissions at the same time. So to give you the background of what Eric was talking about, the council and mayor at first agreed there should be an appointed commission similar to this commission. The mayor did not make his appointments to the commission because he had a plan to put a ballot measure on to create an elected charter reform commission whose recommendations could go directly to the voters. Whereas we were an appointed commission who had to go back to the city council. So in answer to your question, The elected commission did not have to go back to the city council, but we did. So for 2 years, if you can believe it, we each got budgets from the city government to run our operations and to go through the charter on our own process, sending barbs at each other that fortunately didn't get into the newspapers until the very end. Personal yelling and stuff like that. It was very exciting. By the way, for a college professor, this is way more exciting than I had had at any time. And people said, this is awful. How can you stand this? I said, getting yelled at by like major politicians. I thought it was one of the, I could tell my students who thought this was just wonderful. They thought that their professor must be important if he's getting yelled at. And we had different points of view. The elected commission, as Eric says, was more populist, was elected officials who went on to become elected officials, city council members and other positions, really became major politicians. We were the kind of sober older brother who was working through the institutional questions of the charter. I would like to say that we knew all along we were going to work this out between the two, and we would make the single greatest transformation in the history of the charter since 1925. That would be completely not true. We weren't sure how this was going to end up. We proposed our plan of how the charter should look, and the elected commission proposed their plan, and they were very, very different. I mean, they appeared to be irreconcilable. And near the end of the process, when things were looking the darkest, two people got on the phone with each other. The chairman of my commission, attorney George Kiefer, and Erwin Chemerinsky, the chairman of the elected commission. And what they said to each other, I think they should get the Nobel Peace Prize for Los Angeles government. If not us, who, and if not now, when? It's up to us. And the two of them established a process that you can find in the city archives of listing all the areas of disagreement between the two commissions, one after another, and then working through them one at a time. And I was helping as the staff person to gather all the information to make sure this worked well. Leaving nothing to chance, though, our commission quietly began to write the actual charter that would embody all of these agreements so that if they ever reached an agreement, we'd be ready to go. That turned out to be a very lucky decision. You didn't have to start all over again. We had meeting after meeting, and the two chairs took heat from the mayor, who was yelling at Erwin Chemerinsky that he shouldn't work with us, and the council that was kind of yelling at us because we shouldn't be working with the mayor. But we weren't working with the mayor, we were working with the elected commission. And Erwin wasn't working with the council, he was working with the appointed commission. And they pulled off what I think is a civic miracle, which is after a while, we started to notice that the pile of disagreements was getting smaller and smaller. And we were down to a few really critical issues. And at that point, it actually became newsworthy. I mean, charter stuff is usually not newsworthy because we got down to the hardest issue, which was the core issue of the political disagreement between the mayor and council. Should the mayor be able to fire general managers of city departments? In New York, you have the impression the mayor could not only fire them, but probably send them to Cleveland. I mean, the mayor has so much authority. But here, the rule was that the mayor could only fire a general manager with the permission and approval of the city council. In fact, the prior approval of the city council. Can't just fire him and then get permission. You really had to get it approved. Well, that meant that if a general manager of a department wanted to get around the mayor as the chief executive, they could just get enough votes on the city council to block their removal. Not too many cities operate this way. So Richard Riordan, of course, wanted what they called unilateral authority. The council didn't want to change. Irreconcilable difference. We positioned ourselves with the council, the elected commission with the mayor, and then we negotiated and we came up with a deal which is actually in the charter to this day. And that deal was that the mayor could fire a general manager, but it would take 2/3 of the city council to override that. Seems like a pretty natural agreement. The council was not happy. The mayor was even more unhappy. called in Irwin and said some pretty nasty things to Irwin, who didn't back down. We didn't back down, and in meetings like in a room like this, that were going on till all hours of night, we negotiated back and forth and very dramatically agreed between the two commissions on that document, on that decision, fundamentally. That made that 60% possible because all the civic organizations had been watching this, the League of Women Voters, the Chamber of Commerce, neighborhood associations, everybody in town. The LA Times was watching it, the Daily News was watching it. It was on like local news radio after the Dodgers score. They would come up and say, what's happening with the two commissions? So for that moment, it was the flavor of the week. What it meant though, was we still had to go back to the city council. But we had leverage with the city council. Because if the city council did not put the charter on the ballot, we could go with the elected commission and put it on with them. And the elected commission had leverage because they could go with us if the mayor completely abandoned the process. I would say when I testified in front of the council did not look particularly happy when it dawned on everybody when we were sitting there with two unified commissions with a single charter, that it was going to have to go on the ballot. And it went on the ballot. At which point, to his credit, Mayor Reardon, who didn't get what he wanted, then led the campaign to implement the charter and pretty much paid for it. And we ran, the two commissions ran like crazy. We had the league, we had the chamber, we had every civic org, and the LA Times came to our aid with editorial after editorial saying how important this was. And that's where the 60% came from. But the real thing that sold it was change. What I heard some of the commissioners talk about, it was really a symbol of hard times turning into better times, because the context of that was a little bit like where you are right now. There's two kinds of charter commissions. They're the ones that happen regularly because you do them every 10 years and you find a few things to fix and then you move on. It's not that big a deal. But every 30 years or so, you have a charter commission or commissions that are created because of tremendous crisis that has torn the community apart. And something needs to be done to show that positive change can be made. We were in that group because we were in a decade of reform in the 1990s. You are, and may not realize it, about halfway through a decade of reform in LA City and now in LA County. All happening because of some untoward, horrifying events. For us, it probably all started with ethics crises in the late 80s at City Hall, leading to the Ethics Commission in 91, the beating of Rodney King, which led to the most important charter reform in the history of Los Angeles, more than anything we did. Proposition F, to bring about civilian control of the LAPD for the first time in 92. In 95, a measure was passed taking general managers out of civil service. And then we were hit by the threat of secession. 40% of the city threatening to leave. And in 1996, it began to seem like both the valley and the harbor would be ready to get out of the city. And you can imagine potentially the harbor, the loss of the valley, the city was falling apart at this point. So we were the end stage of that decade. And I often felt the responsibility that it was up to us as a charter commission to help keep the city together, to move the city forward, to do alchemy, to turn base metal into gold. The base metal being the crisis, the gold is turning it into improvement, civic engagement, growth, positivity. You are in exactly the same position. You are not one of those commissions that shows up every 10 years to fix a few things here and there. You actually have a bigger responsibility than that, as we did, that I'm sure I know are aware of. The release of the tapes several years ago that were recorded surreptitiously of elected officials saying extraordinarily damaging things in the community continues to resonate today. And that was the base metal that tore the city apart, that really caused a catastrophic situation in the city. You're the inheritor of that, at least in part, and let me just trace you through where you fit in this, because one thing you'll discover, when you're in a wave of reform like this, it's not all in your hands by yourselves. You're more in a relay race than you are in a sprint, where it's all about you going from the beginning to the end. So don't take so much on your shoulders that you've got to fix the city by yourself. But as in a relay race, when it comes to you, you've got to move it so that where you pass it off to the next stage, you've added value. It's moved forward. You've really addressed the issues. To everybody's surprise, after those recordings came out, the city council in LA, which had been resisting numerous reforms, ethics reforms that were buried at City Hall, redistricting reform was buried at City Hall, actually did something that kind of surprised people, which is they set up a committee on charter reform. And that committee actually surprised people by moving ahead reforms that had been bottled up in the city council, one of which was for independent redistricting. You all know those recordings were all about redistricting, about who wins and loses in redistricting. And as long as the council could carve up the seats, that was going to happen again. It would just be a matter of time. They got it onto the ballot and the voters passed it. And now LA City has an independent redistricting process, which it should have had a while ago. They added some ethics reforms that were very good, but not quite good enough, but an improvement. They got to increasing the size of the city council, and they said one bridge too far. Think of it though as the relay race. They got it up to you to sort of send you the baton. And some of that is at the very least to consider, regardless of what you recommend, the unconsidered part of expanding the council. But you're also free to go and look at, when you ask the question, what should be priorities in the short time you have. By the way, when I know how short your time is, I think of the student papers I used to grade before I became an executive and stopped grading papers anymore. By the way, I forgot to tell you, I'm executive director of the John Randolph Haynes and Dora Haynes Foundation for the last 2 years. It is harder to write a 1-page paper than a 10-page paper. And you've all had this experience in school with that nasty teacher who says you're not allowed to go to page 2, you have to get it onto page 1. You're the ones who have to write the 1-page paper, not the 10-page paper, which means you can think about every possible thing that could make things better, but you can't get them all into the 1 page because of the time limit that you have. So the question you want to ask yourself is write your own epitaph as a commission. I mean, that's a sad way to say it. What would people, when I look back at my commission, I say 2 things stand out that we didn't know at the time were the most important things we did. 1, rebalancing the power of the mayor and council, defining the mayor as the chief executive of the city in every possible way. And that has played out in things like emergency declarations you've seen from the mayor in the last couple of years, very much grew out of our work. And the second one was the creation of the neighborhood council system, which Eric is correct. We were pushed to do that by the elected Charter Reform Commission, but we enthusiastically adopted it. It wouldn't have come from us because we were more the traditionalist commission. It's now been in existence for more than 25 years, which many people thought at City Hall would last about a year. And it's growing and learning and improving. And it's due for a charter revision, because the charter only includes the setting up of the system pretty much. It doesn't really do a lot more. But I think if I were going to evaluate for you what you'd want to look back on, what you send to the council, how can you help the city of LA get things done? That's pretty short when you think about it. And now you can't fix that whole thing. Practices, rules that have been in place forever. But when you pass your work over to the city council, think about the contribution you want to make to what was undone by the council that they passed over to you. There's lots of little things in the charter, but the thing that really grates on people is that it's so hard to get things done. And you can't do that all at once, but you can do what I would call a message in a bottle to the next people who take over from you. Maybe the things you don't get to, but you hear in your public comment. Last point. Charter reform really needs a constituency outside yourselves. You're going to be very visible in the community. And you obviously are working on an ambitious outreach plan, and you're going to hear lots from people. You know, you'll hear ideas, you'll hear criticisms, you'll hear praise, you'll hear all kinds of things. You're going to want to pull from that the things that you think can go onto your one page, and the things that might be the message in the bottle, not quite ready yet, but should be definitely considered going forward. And I think you want to make sure that you don't worry too much right now about what the council is going to think. You'll have plenty of time because they're going to get hold of it and they'll look at it. If you try too hard to please in advance for what might be possible, you may not propose things that, even if they don't happen, it would be important to get them on the table, be important for them to happen. At the same time, you're probably not going to propose to the council things that are so wildly new and completely different that they don't have a chance of getting on there. But it would be nice if, when you come to present this to the city council, people in the civic arena have been excited about it. People in the neighborhoods, people in the neighborhood associations, neighborhood councils, civic organizations, the people who write and scribble, they used to call them the scribblers, you know, who write columns and thoughts about this, say, hey, these folks really dug into this. So my advice would be, leave yourself enough time to do the really memorable piece. In addition to hearing from the community, is learning and deliberating. Learning and deliberating, learning and deliberating. Because when you come before the city council and the community, you're going to know more about this stuff than anybody else in town. And that's going to be a tremendous asset to you. By the way, I think Eric had a great idea about a preamble. Eric, I know, said he may have forgotten a thing or two. We did put a preamble in the charter. It's right here. It's short, snappy, but probably could use a little bit of an upgrade. So it's right here, just so you know. I didn't want to leave that on. But the great thing about preambles is I hadn't seen too many preambles and charters, and every commission I worked with after that said you have to have a preamble. It is not a legal document. It is not something that says this is what the city has to do, but it is a wonderful way of talking in contemporary terms for the moment you're in about your values and the values that the community ought to follow and believe in. And it's a great thing to do. And it's not the same as arguing about section 302 and whether blah, blah, blah. So I think I'll stop there and take any questions that you might have.
So nice to see you, Ray. Thank you.
Nice to see you too.
I have two questions about things that you mentioned one of them, and both of you, our esteemed speakers, mentioned the other. Do you think that one of the things we might look at seriously is, as many other cities do, the regular every 10-year charter review?
Yes, I think you have to think it through a little bit. So if just the question is, should there be a regular charter review? I think you may want to think a little bit, understanding that you're right now in the middle decade period, because this is kind of an urgent moment because of the crisis, just as we were. But it's never a bad idea. I believe that we have a provision that calls on the council to speak to whether there should be one convened, because you could find a situation where you absolutely don't need one at all. And, going to the trouble of appointing and convening and doing all this, not necessary, but you can take it up. I think it's well worth considering.
Seems to me every 10 years with this pace of change might be necessary.
10 years is the standard, and I believe that's what the county is doing with its reform. By the way, if I could throw one last thing, the county, until recent years, has never really been a very active player in the governance reform thing. To show you the impact of this wave of reform, it has washed over to the county, which is now doing charter reform with Measure G, and, you know, which is a radical transformation of the county government, that would not have happened without the energy coming from what was going on in the city. So you're all part of that same thing, and they're building in a regular charter reform process.
The other question, Eric mentioned test language. And I think he asked you, did we have polling back then? And it looked like you were saying, well, sort of. Would you suggest, despite our tight timeline, that when we have a draft or something close to ready, that we actually save some of our budget for some initial polling, or do we leave that to the council?
Well, I think a question you first have to ask, because it's been so many years since I've done this, is what you're allowed to do. You know, you may not really be in a position to go out and do polling. So that's one thing to think about. I think the language part, this goes to the question of outreach. It is easier to get outreach that becomes part of your deliberation when it's in response to draft recommendations. Because charter stuff is not like other policy stuff. It's not like, should the minimum wage go up, yes or down? You know, we've had years to sort of think that through. You need proposals to react to, and you may be able to test those with the help of outside organizations that could do polling on it. And my guess is they will. So, but they won't do it the way you're describing it, which is testing language. I'm not sure I believe that that's going to matter quite as much. We did know that by outside polling, that certain aspects of the charter were extremely popular. And you know what one of the most popular one was? A new charter. But think about that. It was the statement of change, which you were talking about, Commissioner, about a statement of change was expressed by voting for the new charter. Neighborhood councils were very popular. But what was also popular was the picture of the two commissions coming together. And the places in the LA Times and others who people often rely on for ballot measures as opposed to candidates. I'm not sure people care that much about LA Times endorsements for candidates, except maybe for judge. But on ballot measures, it's very significant. Yeah.
I want to say a couple of things. The first thing is that and I use Irwin's book in my constitutional class. So he's great. I want to say that was a particular time and space. You spoke about that being a time of Mayor Tom Bradley. And the influence or impact of Black leadership was significant. I don't think that's the case anymore. There is a very serious problem that has been happening in Los Angeles for quite some time. There is Black flight. I believe now there's the last number that I heard is that we went from 1 million Black folks in the city to now about 399. I may be wrong about that. But whatever the case is, it's very significant. We have a school system where, African-American children, one right up the street, is of 1,200 students, 18 Black students. We have what has currently happened, I think in October, we had 68 people who were arrested. MS-13 and a white supremacist group coming together. 68 of them were arrested. I think several of them hadn't been arrested yet. And so there's a very serious issue with anti-Blackness in the city of Los Angeles right now. On top of that, we have what is happening in the street today. We have people being disappeared and kidnapped right under our noses. And this is one of the most diverse cities in this country. And the people that you see who are pushing back against this, beyond just words, are folks like myself. And I think it's important. I'm glad that he mentioned clergy. And I'm glad that he mentioned CLU. I'm a member of CLU, a part of CLU. And I think, we did a major action against ICE. As a matter of fact, at 4 o'clock, there's another action that I intend to go to, if I can make it there. But the point that I think is important to make is we have to have real conversations. We have to have real conversations. And what I think doesn't happen enough, I love compromise. But there are some things that I'm willing to compromise, and there's some things I'm just not. There are hills that I'm willing to die. And one of those hills is whether or not we're treating people fairly and giving people fair opportunities. And so while I thought that was a blue ribbon commission with Irving, I thought it was but the outcome, we have a city, we have a police commission, and I've been to the police commission. We have a police commission where the former chief of police said they don't have the responsibility. They cannot evaluate police because they've never been police officers. This is what they said. This is what the former police chief said of the police commission, which is supposed to manage him. And so we can have, I guess the bottom line is, the only segment, and I teach this in the Constitution class. I'm not quite the law professor like you.
Well, not me, I'm not a law professor.
I thought you were. So, but I'll say, I know the Irwins. I know the Irwins. I wouldn't, but I would say this, even in looking at the Constitution of the United States, the California Constitution, and now the Charter, the only people who I think have the authority to determine what we should do, it would be the people who are directly impacted. It would be the residents of the city of Los Angeles. I think we should go beyond a grant. And I think we need a California Residents Bill of Rights. We need people to understand what benefits are available to you by being a citizen in this city. I think that, and you can tell me whether or not you think this would be, well, I don't care if you think it would, this is what I'm suggesting. But like your opinion, because I think that, and I'm somebody who I don't know where she went, but it was 2 people, I'm coming to yell at y'all. I'm like, good. But at first I said politely, no, don't yell at us, but I like the yelling, it keeps us awake. But at what point? Because again, sadly, I reside in the 6th district. Even more sad, I did the eulogy for Gil Cedillo. Gil Cedillo is an elected official because a Black man named Jim Franklin, who was a part of Jesse Jackson's camp, pushed him into that role. And yet, I had to hear those horrifying words from him and those others. And at the end of the day, when you add all of this together, when you put all of this together, you begin to understand why there are about 339,000 Black people residing in this city. And so it is important that we are able to say to all of the folks who live in Los Angeles that these are your rights, and to say to our elected officials is that these are rights that we expect that you would respect. Because everybody's not going to read the chart. But they will be able to understand these rights in the same way with our Constitution. We would not have a Constitution if there were not the Bill of Rights, because there were states that said, we will not sign on unless you provide us with a Bill of Rights. And I think it's time for us to do likewise as the charter is concerned, and you can give me your opinion on that.
It's a very interesting set of propositions. By the way, our mutual friend Irwin, when he was chair of the elected commission, made a proposal for a Bill of Rights in the charter. It was extraordinarily controversial when it was proposed, so it didn't, but it just echoed in my mind. I guess little pieces of memory come back to me from the old charter days when you're saying that. I think what's really important in the process is not to force people to frame everything as what should be in the charter right now, but to hear where they are. That's one of the great opportunities that you have. You'll find that when you talk in the community as a charter commission, people want to tell you what they're concerned about. And some of the things you said about the African-American community, you hear in many different quarters. There's also a huge development of interfaith clergy now on at least 3 issues in Los Angeles who are filling in a space that it's hard for elected officials to fill in right now. And that would be, I think, a wonderful audience for the committee, for the commission to address or to be addressed by. But I think what you hear at the early stages, you're going to hear people saying how they're feeling about life in this community. And it's then up to you to decide whether that becomes something that the charter can deal with, or is that something for further discussion, but it airs and it's out there. I wouldn't want the commission to miss that opportunity to hear, especially how some communities are feeling on the verge of being out of the civic dialogue, you know, whereas previously it had been very, very different. And that's been an issue for many years now. So when you take up questions like enlarging the city council, these questions will bubble right up to the surface, but you won't have to ask, by the way, and that's the kind of issues that will come right up.
Can you name those 3 issues that you're referring to?
Well, certainly the wildfire recovery, especially in Altadena, but also in the Palisades. The current issues involving immigration have generated a tremendous outburst from the interfaith community. And by the way, at a level I haven't seen in years, but probably, I don't want to sound this old, but back from the Bradley days, when the clergy were a major force in intergroup politics in Los Angeles, they were like the fundamental civic base beyond just beneath the political level, and they often overlapped in terms of the people. There's an element of that coming back, but what's different now is a number of different communities that are now part of that because of the increased diversity and geographical interchange. It would be an oversight to not make them part of the discussion in some way, because it'll help. It'll really help. But then it's up to you to say, not everything is a charter question, but everything's a governance question, whether or not it's the charter, and everything is a community question. These are all the different levels. But it certainly pays to talk that through. Yes, sir.
So we've talked about, or we've heard a lot about the importance of community engagement, community input, resident input, rooting this process in the collective voice of the community. Back in '99, did you find educating residents on just what the charter is, what it means? I mean, I've found just in conversations I've had with friends, colleagues, I haven't done any formal survey, but I guarantee at least 90% of the people I speak with, they don't even know what the charter is, what it means. So what was that process like back in '99, and what lessons learned do you have for us as we embark on this process?
The best learning I had was my daughter was in 2nd grade. And the parents had to come in and say what they do for a living and try to entertain the kids. Could you imagine? So there were firefighters, doctors, lawyers, trash collectors, all people like interesting. And I was like the executive director of the Charter Reform Commission. this is a catastrophe. And then my daughter said, whatever you do, it's fine if you come in, but do not embarrass me. So I was desperate. So I went to the store and I got a bunch of pens that had Benjamin Franklin's picture on it. I said, give away things. And then I went in and I said, who runs the class? And they all pointed to the teacher. And I said, well, today you run the class. You're gonna make a charter for the classroom about things that you're entitled to, but things that are your responsibilities. And we spent the whole class time doing that. I still actually have the charter handwritten in my house. By the way, free ice cream every day was absolutely called for. But it was typical of everything. So here's what I learned. The first few meetings I went to, I said, let me tell you about the charter. My first meeting was a very skeptical audience. What was then called South Central LA, now called South LA. Very friendly, but very like, what is this about? This is terrible. And I said, the first thing you need to know is whatever I'm talking about, the people will have the final vote. Nothing is going to happen without a vote of the people. You can't change the charter. That opened up the whole conversation. Because then we could talk. Because I wasn't coming in and saying, here's the charter. But getting people interested in the charter at the start is hopeless. But what you can do is say, what are the 3 biggest problems you see in the government? Boy, the conversation will be very hot, lively, and you can begin to say, how do the decisions get made around that? So if somebody says, you know, those sidewalks that are up like this, and you know, it's very difficult for me to walk there. I said, well, who makes those decisions? Then you start building it back to the government. But it's hopeless to try to convince your friends who, if you were on the planning commission or the housing commission, they'd say, oh yeah, planning, land use, housing, I get that. If you put charter into Google, what will come up is charter schools. And you'll have to go through about 45 things before you get anything about charter reform. So I'm sympathetic, but look, you're all gonna be teachers at this. And a teacher who's got a subject called charter reform has to make it about you and your government and your community. And nothing they say back will not be helpful. It'll all be helpful. It'll inform, but I don't think I would, we, by the way, began advertising our public meetings as being about you and your government. Make your voice heard. That was one of our first flyers. We didn't have social media. We just had to wing it. We made t-shirts with funny things about something or other, and they were really hot. I still have my t-shirt from charter reform. We made little hats, but the question was always, come to the meeting to make your voice heard. And after a while, people started to learn about it. Then instead of charter, I would refer to it as your constitution. You know, it's your constitution. You're framers of a constitution or reframers of a constitution. I don't know if that helps any, but I'm highly sympathetic.
It does. I actually use that word constitution.
Good.
They get that.
It works.
I need to clarify something really quick. I misspoke and said I did Gil Cedillo's eulogy. I didn't kill him. It was his wife. No, it was his wife's eulogy. I'm sorry.
That'll save us the picking out.
I still love Gil. I don't like what he said, but no, it is what it is. And he's still alive. Yes, alive. So I just wanted to make sure I cleared that.
Got it. Yes, sir. Question. Speaking the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. The ordinance that established the commission called for 1 meeting in each of the 15 council districts, which I believe was wise. Do you think that before we have issues with how large the council could be, or what do we do with, you know, budgeting problems and such, that we have those first 15 meetings first, so we hear from the community what their concerns are, rather than stretching it out, because some of our meetings come after we theoretically have made some preliminary recommendations.
Well, this is where your 1-page essay instead of the 10-page essay begins to give you some unpalatable choices that I don't know the answer to. What we learned is it takes a lot of work to create one meeting in each council district. Each one getting a location, making sure people have the word, make sure that the council member knows about it, make sure the organizations know about it, because you don't want to have a meeting that doesn't have any organizations represented. Make sure you know what you're gonna do, and you've only got, how long? No, not 2 years, no, you've got like, point is, it's a one-page paper. You may have no choice but to just get started with the hearings and then keep going with your work, and as your work proceeds, one thing that's actually helpful for the community is to see where you are in real time. So if you're moving along like here, then when you get to that meeting, you can fill people in on exactly what's going on, exactly where you are, and that actually gives them more information if they're at the meeting than any other way. I don't know an easy answer to saying, do all 15 and then start deliberating. I think you're gonna have to be multitasking, deliberating and outreaching. But that's okay, because the outreach will just evolve to match the pace of what you're doing. We had time to do that, by the way. We did a wave first. We deliberated like crazy, and then we did a wave with the draft charter. Well, that's a luxury that I'm afraid, I think you gotta do, I think they have to overlap unless I'm wrong. Yeah.
My question is about how data played a role, which I think is going to help us here make a lot of tough decisions. And the amount of data that was available at our fingertips in 25 years ago, or at your fingertips, maybe 25 years ago, was very different from what we have today. My question is about which partners did you find the most impactful to get reliable data then? And do you have a view on how this commission should spend its time thinking about data?
First of all, although the city gets a bad rap all the time, the city has a lot of really good data people. And I wouldn't skip over them. We spent a lot of time with city staff. And what we couldn't get from city staff, we went elsewhere. But our instinct wasn't to go elsewhere on the assumption that we couldn't find anything from city staff. When we couldn't, we went ahead. A lot of what we looked at, I wouldn't call data, it was the comparative stuff that Eric was talking about, which is we made tons of charts that would show, here's what LA City's charter says, here's what New York, Chicago, other comparable cities, and then cities in California who are more comparable because they're in California on a particular item. So the commissioners, without wading through data, could immediately see, are we out of line? Is this the state of the art? Could this be improved? And maybe here's a proposal. And I mean, it was really clunky. I have to tell you, I mean, we'd have these long sheets that would go across, and now you would have it all on your computer and your laptop, etc. The data stuff was probably most helpful for voting stuff about council size. But most of the data we needed was available from the city planning department and from the county registrar and past elections and things like that. One warning I give is the commission has to all have a comfort level with the materials you're looking at that's instantly understandable and not subject to a long conversation of, can you explain what this means over here? So we had information, I wouldn't call it quantitative data as much, but a ton of information about whether this was a reasonable idea or not. If that helps, I don't know if that helps.
I think that does, if I may ask you as a follow-up here. 25 years ago, as an example, certainly the demographic data was not as robust as it is today.
I'm sorry, to say the least.
Right, to say the least. Maybe in a neighborhood council, we don't have numbers to the level of neighborhood council in a robust, reliable way, perhaps even today. In the way that we would like. And certainly the Asian American and Pacific Islander community was probably put into a category of some kind of other, or some in the like back then. So I think now we have a moment where we would like to see as much detailed data as possible. I think the city maybe is doing its best I'm wondering how we can supplement that. And
Okay, if you're looking, the one place where data would be really helpful is, of course, demographic data to understand the council districts, the neighborhood councils. It'll be a little harder with the neighborhood councils, but it's very doable with the council districts. It's just go to some of the local universities. There's probably 5 or 6 universities who have people who gather this data on a regular basis. And they're very happy to help. They'd be happy to help a commission, but the stuff is there. What I think is that if you go down that route before you're, to hold up your calendar, I'm just being a friend of your one-page paper. You can be gathering that while you are doing everything else. You don't have the luxury to wait for one piece to be done before you go to the next piece. You got to be doing. Justin, is that okay for you as staff? Here I am putting stuff on the staff, but.
We're constantly building this plane as it's in the air, absolutely. So we're doing multiple things.
But you have a desk and a phone, as I recall, right? Which
I
didn't have.
I just
Okay.
got the phone actually on Thursday. Thank you for.
I have to tell you a story though, that my first day on the job, I'd been a professor. I've been answering my own phone for like 30 years at Cal State, just a regular old person. And the phone rang, and I managed to find somebody at City Hall who would work for Marvin Browdy, the former council member, who was going to be my executive assistant and tell me how things work. But she was just great. So I reached for the phone, and she jumped across the table, hold up the phone, and she said, "Dr. Sunshine's office," which I would never do. And I'm like, she said, "I'm sorry, he's not available. Could he perhaps call you back later this afternoon?" And she hung up. And I said, "What the heck?" She said, "You're like the executive director of the commission. You can't just be available all the time." So anyway, I had no idea what I was getting into at this point. That was just, but do you have someone who does that for you?
Max will be taking notes.
Max, right? Okay. So if he says he's not available, he's actually there about a foot away and just showing up. Did you want to do the commissioners first, and then it's up to you, Justin. Mr. Chair, what would you like?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Could you speak
Yeah.
a little louder?
That's
please?
actually, I think we have some mics
Up here.
potentially, or just use that mic. That'd be great. Thank you. So everyone can hear on Zoom. Sorry for those on Zoom. She's gonna repeat herself.
When we came here today, we heard public comment about this commission being appointed by city council that's embroiled in scandals and stuff like that. I want to know what kind of tools do these members have to maintain their independence from city council? What can they do if the public is telling them one thing, the data is telling them one thing, city council wants something else? How can they protect themselves as far as maybe, I don't know if they're considering their political future, or isolate themselves from city politics and really just bring something that's good for Los Angeles?
Did everybody get a question? It's a very good question. I'd like to tell you there's an easy answer to this question, but the overwhelming number of charter commissions in this country are appointed by the very body that they're going to be going back to. So this is a constant question. And then the question becomes, how do you add value to the debates and to the governance of the city, even knowing that A, you've got to go back to the council as a group, or B, you were appointed by particular members, and that's an important thing. This is where the appointed commission model for us, we were treated exactly the same way. The day we took office, that was the main interpretation of us. And our conclusion was we were going to do two things. One is we were going to learn to work with each other and develop an identity as a commission internally. And the more you do that, you don't get like complete independence. I mean, it's unrealistic, but in a certain sense, you're learning to respond to people who were appointed by somebody else because you're focusing on the material you're dealing with. And the more you dig into the material, the stronger you feel about that. It doesn't mean that, I'm not recommending that people go like jump off the diving board and, you know, in a heroic statement of something. It's more, you get good at this pretty quickly. And your staff's bringing you information, you're demanding more information, you're learning. And before you know it, you know more about this stuff than most people in town. And that's what we did. And after a while, you know, nobody has time to pay attention to you all the time, every single day. So you've got time to work. But it's very important that you think of yourselves as a little bit of a jury. And again, getting to know your fellow jurors and listening to what they say, and also being willing to change your mind. We had a rule in our commission that all decisions until the last week of the 2 years were draft decisions. Why did we do that? Because we wanted to let people change their minds. It is very hard to change your mind once you cast a vote that appears to be the final vote. So in a sense, we tried to earn a little bit of that independence that you're talking about, but it's you can't set a standard for yourself. You know, you're not judges. You don't have the independence of a judge, but you're also not a city employee. So you're somewhere in this gray zone, and you can expand the gray zone by the quality of your work. It's boring to say that, but I think that's the way it works.
And if it helps, I mean, five of us are not actually appointed.
And I'm one of those 5. I was not.
Myself.
That's right. So you got these people who are in a different situation. But again, one of the things that develops over time is that when you have a hybrid, that you begin to think of each of you simply as fellow commissioners, regardless of how you were appointed. You don't want to get in a position where you feel obligated in commission meetings to sort of be speaking on behalf of an appointing authority. You're not expected to do that. Even they don't expect that. So it's just all a matter of being a commissioner. That's the identity of the commissioner. Is it okay if
Yeah, let's do one or two, because we still have one more presentation.
Following up on Commissioner Stein's question about the 15 districts. In your comments, you talked about, well, trying to figure out what is possible politically and what might be so interesting but isn't possible. Is there a scenario in which you think that this commission should recommend to the council to take some changes in 2028 instead of 2026 and extend their mandate? So let's say the question of council enlargement, maybe there's multi-seat districts, maybe there's council powers that go with different models, and gave the opportunity to go back to those 15 districts before it would go to the ballot in 2028 in order to really test and refine some ideas. Is there some scenario where you think that might make sense?
It's a great question. I don't know that it's wise for a commission to poll on its own for an extension of time. I say that as a professor giving extensions for paper to something, but I think that if I could reframe it a little bit, because I don't think that's the place of a commission to say that. You could have things that are ready to go, ready for prime time, ready to be picked up, ready to go on in 2026. You could have others that are super promising. There's a whole thing in political science called agenda setting. There's a whole science of how you get things on the agenda, and it doesn't always mean you get it done right away, but you make it a legitimate topic of conversation. You can say things like, this one's not ready for 2026, but we recommend serious consideration. You could go back to that, they can have an ad hoc council committee to look at it. They can do whatever they want to get there. They don't need a commission to get there. But that way, you're forward thinking and you're not burying a good idea. And then you can have a third set of ideas, which really is the message in a bottle, which is there's a bunch of these that somebody's really got to dig into. Now, sooner or later, some professor will dig into it somewhere. So, but the second one, I think is a very legitimate thing to do. But I think what you want to focus on is that you can get your work done on time and that you can get some impactful recommendations to them for the 26th ballot. I think that's your first That's your first, that's where the clock ticks. I know, we're gonna need to get me off here. I'll stay on board.
So I'm curious, you had the benefit of not only having two commissions doing parallel work, and so a lot of deep dives being done from different perspectives, and the benefit of essentially a consensus process to reach agreements later. And a lot more time, which these folks don't have. But you also have the benefit of hindsight. And I'm wondering, I'm very curious, if there are things that were perhaps lost through that consensus process that you have found over the years, if we had only, we might have avoided. And this is still an outstanding thing that's very important to me, with all the time that you put in and you continue to put in this issue. I'd be curious, what things might be sort of remnant for you.
And Eric was asked that same question, and it is listed a few things. This would be my personal view. I was always interested in kind of expanding the role of what became the Area Planning Commission, which is something we created that didn't exist before. And we created them, but we didn't really nail down what they would do. So it's become something that's very promising, but hasn't been developed as much as it could. That would have been something I would have liked to have seen. I would have liked to have seen in retrospect more detail about the role of neighborhood councils so that it doesn't become so ambiguous. Because ambiguity in roles of institutions are always challenging. That's almost worse than being told no, is not knowing what it is. I don't think there's time probably on this round to really do that whole thing, but that might be something that's a message in a bottle. Article 9 is really in need of revision. It was set up largely to set up the neighborhood councils, so I indicated, not to operate and run them, to really get their role clarified. I think if I were being down the road, would love to see is just more ways to make sure the city gets to be able to do the things that need to get done, so the public can visibly see the work of the city services being delivered in the best way that they can. I think it's not because of a lack of goodwill at City Hall. I think it's just basically that question, I think, is really an important one. I don't have an answer to how to do it yet. Those are some of the areas I thought of. I do think the preamble, now that I've reminded everybody that it's actually in there, could be refreshed in light of some of the comments that were made. The world has changed a lot since '99. That would be really great.
Everyone, we're gonna, let's give a round of applause to our event. There's been a request for a brief 10-minute recess before we go on to our next speaker. Is there any objection? All right, seeing none, a 10-minute recess. Okay.
Someone's next. Still running. I think the city, it's not just a tough. I think the way that you're experiencing is double, triple what it was. Yeah, I agree. And I think that's when we think about the last what it still has. Yeah. How do you manage the reality that you are on now going to do? You have to remember that it's 20 years. None of those people are going to ask. Right. But those seats will be currently when we think about things like independent review, those are anything that the only way to really be elected in Los Angeles City is by having a storied long career of public service like Mayor Max. Who wants to be represented by hundreds of millions or to be the head of a small.
I heard you yesterday on the recording. Sorry.
We're looking at having fun, and I feel like. This is one of the things that about us.
So the Zoom's recording the meeting?
Yes, this is the
Oh, okay, that's great. And then
Yeah, yeah.
just get it, and is it sounding okay?
It's sounding good.
People have been complaining about the recording. We're having Council Audio do it, so.
Yeah, no, it's
All right.
This one does it pretty good. It captures everything. So I can send you the file on Monday?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
I'll just shoot it over to you.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay, no problem.
How are you? I sat with Jeremy yesterday at Alcon Police, we were talking. It's really special.
It's exciting.
You know, when you shoot for the moon, even if someone backs down your arrow, you still want to put straps and you're able to do things that this isn't going to benefit the East. This is going to benefit what the council for you to the city.
Yeah, found one. You think my, like, I forget my.
But I don't know whether it's intention for the city or, I'm not.
How are you, sir? Good to see you. Oh, thanks for coming out. Thank you. That's Professor Rao, right? Yeah. Great. I heard some about him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's good.
And the other guy was very, he was a character. I was thinking character.
Yeah.
The guy who spoke first, yeah, it's very, he has like a very, his byline, which is very, he's a character, he's like a very engaging individual, very conversational. So is Dr.
There's just a lot more vetting and a lot more
Great
discussion.
Son
Whereas Herb was like a personal friend of mine, so they already knew everything about, his staff, I mean, I already knew all of his people.
One more.
This is the.
Yeah. CLA.
Is it Chris?
Now they're like.
Yeah, Chris has to know that.
My
Yeah.
resume, internet. Oh.
Like Christina Lee?
Yeah, maybe that.
Oh, yeah, that's why I thought so too. It's just been like.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're at the, you're not good.
No.
Oh, yeah, I already asked.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah. Oh. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah.
You were like a role.
Yeah.
Oh.
Got it.
I'm gonna get a lot of.
Oh.
So we're
A lot of times the stuff I have to.
Yeah, I was just asking about them. I'm like, people are just playing.
Especially if something.
It's just, it's something, something's in the, it's
Yeah.
I don't know, make it, or maybe because this is, remember, this is through Zoom this time, as opposed to council audio recording.
Yeah.
Well, no, wait, no, I'm gonna take that back. Maybe it's the Mac. That's all I got.
So you're glad they came? Do you think you could have set this up yourself?
I mean, oh, without, no.
I live in.
Plus, if I did so, I'd be breaking union rules.
I don't think we're like part of IATSE. This is like. We are in the like 30 miles on.
I mean, we're in it's studio land.
I mentioned I was near because I was downtown, but they're.
Then there were
Josh, right?
I will be.
John Lee's.
Yeah. Yeah. Bob Hope and,
But we've gone.
yeah, somewhere.
We were super close.
I don't know, I think that, if I look at the cards, I think, And it's just. Yeah, it's, that's why I'm not able to make that. Like, the Liberty is a bar, it's like, it's more like between where I work and the valley.
Yeah.
Keep on
Yeah.
mind, which is acceptable, like, it's something maybe.
Yeah.
This is what the clerk's office is, I'll go back to them and be like.
Yeah, I read the LA
I
Times.
mean, but he wrote it that way for me.
I know who wrote the article, I think it's
And then
Erica, the
James
lady
Martin-
who's running with the
Right.
app.
When you
Check
don't
out
look for
her smartphone, just
I
recording,
understand.
she's the wrong. And she's wrong.
I typed him up, so
About Andy.
I just need to go over with, like, I got the vote, right? But
Yeah.
I'm gonna set the end, right?
But
I made it live, especially that amending
accidentally,
thing.
Yeah.
Intentionally, really measure J, between 28, it's still good, but at between 28 and
I'm gonna say
28, it's no longer valid. That's why Janice Hahn and Lindsay Harvey were scrambling, trying to get it done before the 2028 deadline. So they had this long meeting this past Tuesday, almost close to 8 o'clock, long, and you people measure the measure J, reimagine measure J, reimagine something. Folks were there and, it was a long one, because they realized that John Barca, one of the commissioners, was the one who discovered it. Again, he had a bunch of documents talking about it. At first, I was like confused as to what they were talking about. I wasn't really paying attention, but then after reading the LA Times article, yeah, and,
Yes, more like, she's like, she's like, she's a real, I know you.
Better really don't go in that. It's really back. You don't like the light?
It's just this one.
Okay, do you wanna do your hairs?
Okay, you can go.
You can never do that.
Thank you.
Start.
I think a good choice, softer, okay. Right, sunshine,
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. And then Berman.
No, yes.
Yeah.
What a great connection.
Anyway, it's great to finally meet you. Like I said,
What brings, are you?
I'm
Commissioner. Oh, no. Yeah, you're gonna have the whole thing. Very much. So listening to that.
I know you, I saw you earlier, then I thought you, before you left, where you got your, still here. I saw you earlier, yeah.
You guys, anytime.
I guess you're managing the audio equipment, right? Technical
I
stuff?
just do whatever you want me to do.
Oh, okay.
How's everything going in CD6? Are you in Sun Valley every time?
Yes.
I used to, but I'm still like.
Oh,
I think I'm July 2024,
oh, okay.
but I'm still involved, I'm a creative rep for Windows Trails.
Oh, cool.
So, which is, just 7, not too far, but, but I'm involved now. I attended their board meeting and their committee meeting this past, 2 weeks, so I'm still involved.
Great.
How are you?
What are these
Pause.
Yeah, the one in the.
One of them. God, I can't believe in 2 weeks we've done class. And this.
There's 2 weeks.
Well, this is more fun. I love this stuff. I don't know if I can tell. She's like 36. Get over it, right?
I love that.
Oh, I do. Actually, I just trained. I should have brought you. Then if somebody asked me that question.
Thank you for all the work you're getting this set up. What time
Are you guys excited?
today?
Let's rock, let's move.
It's important. Mr. Chair.
Nice to
so
meet you.
nice to meet you.
Thank you. Can I get your contact information?
Oh,
I've got everything.
Okay. Oh, no, I wanted to give one, okay, I'll share it with everyone else.
Consider me part of the city.
You are.
The charter commission.
I did.
Nothing like a charter. Consider me part of That's okay. Well, you and I talked about that. You don't have to answer.
Commissioners, if you could make your way back up to the stage, please.
Great speech.
Oh, thank you.
Very
You are.
informative. Fine.
Hi, Wyatt. How are you? Where are you from? Oh, District Six, okay. That's got a long history. Because you know, I moved from the west side many years. All these districts have, like in my mind, the other seminary, like characters. changed.
Oh, yeah.
I used to work in District 10 instead. So, only thing is, then when it moves from like the west side to the valley, it developed its own culture. Yeah. It's been many years now. It's got its own.
I was Wax, right? We moved him. Martin, it was
No,
on
that
Wax.
was the second district.
Oh,
They moved him because he wanted to go with Cowboys, so they moved him to someone, I guess, where the Cowboys was. Two was him. 7 was Diaz.
oh,
9 more.
excuse me.
But they moved around a bunch of things.
I mean, I understand. It's driving you crazy.
What part you at? Neighborhood council stuff or?
Second.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
Graduated and Okay, commissioners, I have to do roll before we reconvene, so I'm going to commence with roll call, and I have some a visual. Commissioners as well. Okay. Commissioner Andrades, present. Commissioner Field. Commissioner Fuentes, you're getting a donut, correct?
Sure.
Okay. I have a visual comment.
She's definitely, she's there.
Okay. Commissioner Lewis, is here. Commissioner Mack,
President.
Commissioner Murray,
Present.
Commissioner Sanchez, I'm here, Commissioner Schlesinger, here, Commissioner Stein, Commissioner Thomas.
Second on TV.
Well, you know. Here, can you?
Is at the door.
Commissioner Thomas.
Yes, the Commissioner, yeah. Here, Commissioner Mesa, present. Okay, we can proceed, Executive Director.
That's awesome.
All right, thank you. And now, last but not least, you want to end with from our Chief Legislative Analyst Office, Chris Espinosa. Thank you, sir, for coming today and being with us.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Chris Espinosa with the Office of the Chief Legislative Analyst, and we work for the Los Angeles City Council. We assist them with legislation, programs, budgeting, and help staff the council floor and move their agenda forward. We're gonna speak a little bit about today about some of the governance reform that took place and led to the creation of this body. And this was a very recent work, as you know. We're gonna go over the ad hoc committee on city governance reform. The ballot items that were just put forward before the voters on November 5th, 2024. Some of the future work that this commission will be taking up and future beyond that. Council referrals. There's a number of council referrals that are part of your packet. And a discussion about a schedule and deadlines. So we're on page 3 and we're talking about the ad hoc committee on governance reform. So after the tapes were released, there was certain leadership changes that took place at the city council. Councilmember Krikorian was elected president of the Los Angeles City Council in October of 2022. So it was a very tumultuous time. And soon thereafter, he created the ad hoc committee on city governance reform. And that membership was made up of Krikorian, Councilmember Rahman, Blumenfield, Harris Dawson, Hernandez, Hutt, and Councilmember Park. Our first meeting took place in December 8th of 2022, and our final meeting was on June 14th, 2024. So you can see that we had about a year and a half worth of work not including council meetings, we had about 6 meetings. And the goal, of course, was to increase transparency, limit corruption, and make senior leadership more representative of the communities. I helped staff that committee along with a number of my colleagues. And so there was a lot of staff work that took place to bring these items before the committee. Some of the major issues was the independent redistricting commissions and creating that. And so significant amount of staff work and commission time spent on that as a priority. We also took up issues of ethics commission and their independence and their authority. We looked into changing the number of council districts because it goes hand in hand with the independent redistricting kind of process. We looked at planning and land use authority. We also took a look at best practices for charter reform and the creation of a commission and periodic review. And then at the very kind of tail end of the committee's work, there was a directive to ask 12 departments and offices to propose short-term, kind of easy fixes, stuff that were non-controversial, and then a set of recommendations that were weightier, tougher to dig into, that may take more time. The committee accomplished a great deal. There were 6 items that were put on the ballot that were charter amendments. And this is on page 4. We have, of course, the Independent Redistricting Commission for the city. It's a very substantial work. Amount of detail in that was very challenging. The LAUSD also has Independent Redistricting Commission. The HHH was the City Governance Appointments and Elections, and then you'll see II is City Administration and Operations. Both of those were all from the city departments, primarily fixes that we could make to make the charter more transparent, more fluid, try to help their operations and execute as city departments. ER, of course, was commission authority and operational independence, and there was a great amount of work on that and some substantial reforms. And then the last one was fire and police pensions. That one mainly had to do with separate labor negotiations. So it wasn't really something that the committee developed thoroughly during that process, but a separate process that the council had worked on. In addition to those 6 ballot measures and them all getting passed, the council adopted a new section of the administrative code to create a commission, a charter reform commission that would look at the charter. And it's an advisory body, right? And you will be making recommendations to the city council. In addition to that, built into that administrative code change is that the charter should be reviewed no less frequently than 10 years. So that is built into law, and we will need to reassemble a charter review commission in the future. So this has now been institutionalized, this kind of process. Of course, the council can bring up a charter amendment at any time. They can pass a motion. It could go through council, and then staff would report, and we would go through a committee process and then set it up for the election. So that could occur at any time. But this idea of creating a commission, which would have an arm's length distance, the ability for you to review the charter in its entirety. Now, future reviews might be limited in scope, but this one was allowed to look at the whole charter, but specifically, there are items that the council has referred to. And so on page 6, if you notice on the administrative code, the commission shall review specific issues and provisions of the city charter referred by the city council. And so as part of your packet, I've included an attachment. We call it attachment B. The reason for that is attachment A was all the items. There was a lot of items that went forward to the ballot and move forward for 2024. The second set were items that were not ready for prime time, as the former speaker mentioned, or they were it would have taken a lot more deliberation and expertise and time. So I'll give you an example. The council did discuss changing the number of council districts. The budgetary, the logistical challenges associated with it. I think at one point, the council decided, or the committee decided, to continue to move forward with this work, to make sure that it can accomplish some very important measures and put them on the ballot, and then allow for a future commission to further review it if it so wishes. So this attachment B has about 50 items in there. Okay, and they're from the Department of Water and Power, Harbor, Airports, the City Administrative Officer, there's the personnel, City Clerk, Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, which many of the speakers had mentioned, and the council, and they referred items to you for your review. These items have been described in public reports. And so it would be very appropriate to give it some review. Some items you may not wish to take up. And so, you know, my recommendation would be to figure out how you wish to dispose of those items or allow for it to be taken up by a future charter commission. And then some of them you may want to try to tackle. Our previous work allowed for some weightier issues and some more technical efficiency and transparency goal issues, and those can be packaged up so that it can be done in a thematic way, so that when you tell your story to the community, to the public, that these are items that we considered, and this is the way it's been packaged and proposed for your consideration. The last thing I want to bring up is on slide 7, and that's your schedule and deadlines. And I think it's, you know, I just screenshotted this from a report that we produced to the council that essentially adopted a schedule that would have recommendations coming to the city council by January 1st, 2026. Even this schedule was very aggressive. The reason for it being so aggressive is the city budget deliberations start in April. And if you have been following the city budget process this last go around, we had a very large deficit and a number of potential layoffs that are still in front of us. And so council members were very involved. Those that were on the Budget and Finance Committee, extremely involved meetings, and other members were also testifying at these meetings. There was a number of restructurings that were proposed as well. So it really pulls away their energy and doesn't give them the amount of time to consider, you know, the commission's proposals. So that's why we set a January date that would allow for about 4 months worth of deliberation on how they might want to take up your items. Now, knowing of the start time of assembling the commission, that's probably not feasible, but I just wanted to make you aware of it in terms of how we saw the commission and what kind of deadlines that we try to, well, projections that we try to set forward for the creation of the body and for it to start its work. So I really appreciate and thank you for allowing me to present to you and to give you this background history. And ready to answer any questions they got.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Just for clarity, page, I mean, this is super helpful, by the way, thank you, this is super helpful. I just wanna see if I understand. The items on page 5, those are all future. None of those were taken care of in November 2024 with the 6 charter amendments that we passed.
Page 5, you're correct. It didn't move forward as an amendment to the charter. What happened here was that it was adopted by the council and mayor as city law. So it's in the administrative code. And so your commission is codified in law. And the idea of having a 10-year, no less than 10-year review of the charter is also codified in law. So, yes, you had asked that question earlier to one of the speakers.
Yes.
It's built into city law. Now, it could be changed. So of course, somebody could amend the law. So charters are different, right? Because it has to go to the voters. But in this case, this is city law. And so I guess just know as a commission that at least every 10 years, another body such as yours will be taking up matters. So you don't have to put everything on your shoulders, right? And the way your commission is drawn up is very different from the process that the past 2 speakers and what they had to deal with. A very different political moment and different makeup of the commissions.
One other question, please, Chairman Mesa. Attachment B, every single item there has not yet been added to the charter based on November 2024.
Yes, these are items that have been specifically referred to your commission for your review. And so I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of it so that you do have a certain body of work that has been proposed. Now, I wanted to clarify that these are all from city department heads. And they wish to improve their operations, or they see things that may be deficiencies. But they're coming from a certain perspective. There's also some council referrals in here. But of course, this doesn't limit you, your review and your charge is to look at the entire. A future commission, though, could be limited to a specific section. Right? So it just depends on, what your scope of work is going to be.
Thank you for coming to present to us today, and I would like for you to send an entire thanks to your office. The CLA has written so many amazing reports that I have viewed in the council files on these issues and other issues, which have been so helpful just to get a basic background, and also on your entire office's work during the last budget, and I would imagine the upcoming next 2 budgets and what the city is about to face. So please pass that along to your colleagues.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
On the periodic review of the of creating a periodic charter review commission, I would drop this seat for the commission. It is in municipal code. However, the composition, the way the appointment structure, the independence is not. And it could theoretically be that we would propose that the periodic review have more independence. That the periodic review have the ability to go directly to the voters and not the council as a recommendation. And so I look forward to having that discussion in this body. Commissioner Slatter.
Thank you, Chair Mesa, and I want to echo your comments about the CLA and our appreciation. I know that the staff had begun to put together the orientation packet and the background materials, and this meeting being a component of that for all our commissioners here to start out on the same playing field. So I am interested in whether this is a question to you, Mr. Espinosa, or perhaps our staff. to take this attachment B to the next layer of information, which of these have background information that you've already produced that we could benefit from? Is that compiled somewhere, or, is there well, I would start there. To identify further, which of these have further value that you've already done from your analysis that we could benefit from? Is that collected somewhere that we could all be sure to have it equally? And what do you see as the CLA's role as we proceed over these coming months in continuing to inform us about your and the city staff and departmental opinions on things?
Yes, thank you. Well, the council file, and it's 23-1027, and it's listed on here on the documents, has a report from all the city departments in that file. I can work with your staff to indicate which ones moved on to those charter amendments that were already passed, and there's some remaining. It would also take staff to bring in the department heads and to query them, and we can assist with that. Which ones that they felt were viable, that could be done within a relatively short amount of time to really develop, or are these issues that will take a great deal of expertise and time. So we could assist with that. It's all in the council file. There's a few on here that are council referrals, and so that the only backing on that would be a motion. And so that some of those might take a little further research. One example might be reducing the number of council meeting days. That was a discussion and an item that was considered, and we haven't done a full analysis of that. As to our relationship, we do assist staff, but the independence of this commission is very important. I think the council wants to hear from you as a body, and the work that you do with the community. We work solely for council, and so we're very internal and part of, the city makeup. I think if they ask us for a report on something, we produce it, right? But that's not what they're asking for in this case. They're asking for your analysis, your review, and so that's why I think, we would be. We want to assist staff and help point them in the right direction, but we respect the independence of this commission. Also, to be honest, you will be producing recommendations to the council. At that time, they may ask our office to review it with our own analysis. And so we may agree on issues, we may disagree on issues, we may see it in a different way. So that's why we have a certain amount of independence.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it, and I encourage Justin, you and your staff to be in close contact with the CLA as we move forward. Thank you.
And many of the letters that you're speaking about are already in the orientation package that we sent all the commissioners.
Yeah, and I think the distinction I wanted to make between those letters and what's in the packet and what's in front of us today is the understanding of what moved forward and what was dealt with, and what happened since many of those were compiled. Thanks.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I'm wondering about, well, there's always a number of people that come out from public comment. And I'm wondering what, if there was a constant analysis in terms of what the public has said, like their actual words, how does that compare to what these managers want? Because I think the issue is what a manager would consider to be efficient can be quite different than what a constituency. A manager may think that filling a pothole in 2 weeks is quick. Well, when you have had several tires flattened because of that pothole. You want that done before they, so I want to juxtapose in real time what it is the community is saying in public comment, and I'm hoping that public comment, I'm sure that they support it. But I want that to be also synthesized if possible, so that we can look at these issues and we can see specifically what they were saying in 1999, what they are saying in 2024, and what they'll be saying to us in 2025. Is that possible? From your office, or would we do that? I don't know.
Okay, there is public comment that is listed on the council file, so anybody who has spoken at meetings or have submitted comments are all available on the council file. Part of your work is to hear about these specific issues that are based in the charter, why they exist, and how they assist us in delivering services to the citizens. They will be making those cases or information, providing it to you. And that can be juxtaposed against what the public is also saying to see if it's true, if it trues up, and if that's, you know, where you want to move forward. So many of these issues can be very technical in nature. Some of the planning issues, the personnel issues, and it takes a deep understanding to understand how some of these city mechanics work. So it takes a long time to study these things. Some of them might be more self-evident. It just depends on what issues you bring up. And so it would be incumbent upon staff and your body to bring forward individuals who can speak intelligently to what items that you want to revise.
And so would you suggest as a follow-up question? Would you succeed? What is the process for ensuring that public comment is actually taken seriously? I know that it's our job for the moment, but I think it's important that this become a part of the charter.
Yes.
If people take off work to come and to give public comment, and a lot of times it's seen with a degree of, like, people are presumed to be antagonistic when in fact it's harm. And so, you know, I've heard the conversation about data, and now I'm hearing this in terms of what the general managers are saying, correct? And so it is important that we factor in a harm-informed approach. The people of Los Angeles, the people of this country have been harmed. We've been harmed with poverty, with crime, with COVID, and now this crisis with immigration. And so it is very, very important that we build into the fabric of what the city does, and it's consistent with what we want, that this is how we're going to view public comment as opposed to how it is currently viewed. Because if I am agreeing with what the council is saying, then I am welcome to speak. But if I am opposed and I am emotional, then I'm antagonistic and I'm threatened to be removed. When in fact, people are being harmed in real time. And so this may not be something that is easy to include. But again, I think these managers, as they are submitting their recommendations, I think they need a rationale. I think they too need a preamble, because I need to understand why these changes are necessary, not simply because it would make it more efficient. Because there's a difference between being efficient and effective, and that efficiency is a very broad, subjective term. I would much rather someone take longer to really give me what it is I need than for them to move quickly and tell me that they've given it to me. And so that's a long way of saying, I want us to think about, both as a commission, but also at the city council level, how do we honor the people who come before us and give public comment? How do we honor that in real time? And not just with a vote, you know, because ultimately, you know, the citizens of Los Angeles are gonna have to vote on this. But I think there's a way that we honor that in terms of how, if we're gonna be seeking to get the kind of support, to get the 60% that was received before, we in no way can refuse to acknowledge what people, everyday people, not just interest groups, not just nonprofit groups, but what everyday people, the kind of almost toxic experience that you can get just by coming forward and saying, this is how the city is harming us with these particular practices. And so I don't know if, you know, I am a preacher, so, you know, you gotta forgive me a little bit on that end. But I hope you understand what I'm saying. I mean, a very real, and I think this needs to come from city council. It needs to come from city council in terms of how they're going to view this, and these managers, how they're going to view this. Is there, for example, is there a way of rating each city department in terms of services? I know there's supposed to be, but I mean in real time, not just stored away in the database. You know, is there a way of connecting? You know, we've heard that the mayor wants the right or to fire department heads. Well, if the mayor is seeking to fire a department head who is delivering the kind of services that the people want and need, then I think it's inappropriate. You know, and there's got to be a way to be able to factor that in. And I think when we talk about balance of power, the people who are out of balance in terms of power are the people in the street, are the citizens. Yes. That's where we need to correct the balance. And is there a commitment, or will I find any of that in the work that you all have done? And if so, I want to look at that first.
Yeah. You know, when you work for the city, you're a public servant, the public comes first. We try our hardest to serve the citizens of Los Angeles. And so that's our approach.
I believe you do. I work for a university, and the students are supposed to come first, but they often don't. And so I'm just saying, I'm not trying to be antagonistic towards you. I'm just being real. I don't know any other way to be. And this is a concern. This is a really serious concern. And being a public servant, all of those city council folks are public servants, even the ones that made those very dehumanizing remarks. They're public servants. And so I'm just simply saying, as politely as I know how to, that ain't good enough. Not for 2025. Not for 2025. We are trying to imagine what the city of Los Angeles could be, not what it was, not what it was, but what we dream of it being. That's why I'm here. If that's the only reason I'm here, because I believe that the city of Los Angeles has the capacity to be a real model city, to help people to understand that we are interconnected around the world, that we are interconnected and we are moving forward, and we are upholding the ideals and the interests of our residents. That's what I am hoping, and that's the kind of, and we're talking about language. That's kind of what I'm looking for, and maybe it's there, but I just think that it's important to just bring that to your attention. And so I don't want, yeah.
Thank you. I mean, you're a commissioner, and that will be your charge, and so we look forward to seeing the work of this body and the aspirations that you have.
Commissioner Field.
Yeah, actually, I want to thank you. I want to mention, speaking of language, I feel very strongly that the word citizen is too narrow. Our city has a lot of folks who are not citizens. And I think we should try very hard to use the word the residents of the city of Los Angeles as a standard term, because I am deeply concerned, because I don't know the data, but we certainly know that not everyone living in our city is a United States citizen. And I think the value or the belief of our city is that it doesn't matter. everyone who is here is our resident to serve and to listen to. So just a comment about that one piece of language.
Absolutely. Are there any commissioners who have any additional questions for our presenter? Well, then, I thank you for coming and providing this presentation for us so much. We can give our presenter a round of applause. We do, sir, if you don't mind, we will take a question from the audience just because we've done that with the previous one. If you could come up to the mic, please.
Oh, come on, look at you, in my touch. Sorry, the mic, oh, it actually moves. So just real quick, I noticed that I looked through this and I've been paying attention since, I guess it's the Fed tapes leak. And we've been pussyfooting around about, you know, why we're here pretty much and what those tapes are about, which is kind of bullshit. But one thing I noticed was that there wasn't much talk about flipping the districts back to what they were before that fateful meeting. I mean, like, before the decision to change the districts due to that meeting. And I haven't seen a lot of talk about doing that. Maybe, after I ask this other question, you could touch on that, because I was feeling you won't have an answer to my next question. My next question is gonna be, I can ask the legal thing, right? Legal stuff? Legal analysis, right? All right, well, so is there anything we can put into the charter? Like some kind of salary penalties, things that actually resonate with somebody who's doing a job where when they don't deliver on something, or if they actually break the rules that they're supposed to be following, that they're gonna agree to pass at some point, you know, agree to the recommendation, and then the voter's gonna vote on it, and then ideally it gets passed. Is there any, like, in that process, can there be legally salary deductions and like, something that actually feels like something to them when they break the rules? Is that something that we can do?
I would have to research it. I'm sorry, I don't know that answer. It's an item that the commission may wish to bring up and to follow through on with the city attorney's office. The work of the council committee was to create an independent redistricting process. They did go through a redistricting process, and that completed. And because of the issues related to that process on a go-forward basis, that's why they created the independent redistricting process, and that was approved. So.
We're gonna take one more question from the audience, but I would like to ask if it's from someone who hasn't been able to ask a question so far today from the audience.
There's only like a dozen people here, and this is like 4 million people are positive, they're like here, right? Talk about transparency and shit, right? Talk about public comment, right? Or not? There is no more. Some questions, you should definitely ask the question. You should definitely hear the rest of the people too. Just like maybe it doesn't mean.
Ma'am, if you could proceed with your question.
Why not?
Ma'am, if you could proceed with your question, please.
Right. Discretionary.
Hi, my name is Gina Thornburg, and I don't know really if it's a question, but I've been in the archives almost every day for quite a while here at CSUN on the city charter reform from the last time. And
Ma'am, if you don't have a question, we do have.
Oh, I do have a question, I do have a question.
Just everyone,
Sure.
there is, excuse
Yeah.
me, there is public comment at the beginning for all participants. So I just ask you if you could stick with your question.
Sure, my question is, if I were to be helpful by sharing some of the documents I found, how would I get them to you? I don't know whether to submit them as a public comment or not. And then regarding Commissioner Thomas's really great idea about synthesizing public comments, you might consider using AI. And the last charter reform commissions, they had many researchers, not just one employee, they had many. So another question I have is, can you go back to council and increase your budget? Because I think you're gonna need more support.
Let the executive director answer that first question.
I'll never say no to more money. Having said that, you know, we are in the process of hiring a couple more staff members who will add to our policy support, including, and then additionally, we'll probably have a contract for a policy analyst, a professional policy analyst. In addition, we are in conversations with some of the fantastic universities in the city about them sharing their research as they endeavor to engage on projects with that relate to our city charter process.
To go back, sorry, point of clarification, she also had a question about how to submit public comment. So who is the best person for people to send research if they?
Yeah, we have the Reform LA Charter at lacity.org email address that we that takes public comment for individual meetings. But of course, if you have for example, you want to just, reach out to the commissioners in general about something, you could use that and ask us to make sure it goes to all the commissioners. And I think we've also posted all the commissioners' city email addresses also on the website, and you can certainly individually email them as well, or as a group.
Documents so far, tedious work, and I would love to be able to share with you some of the things that I'm. It's the same email?
Yeah, same email. I don't believe we've talked before. We'll probably at some point have a discussion about just what to do for these documents as well.
Can we thank our presenter one more time, please? Before we adjourn, do any commissioners have any closing remarks?
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
I did want to state for the record, and I think just to have the acknowledgement of all the commissioners here today that while we had to choose among candidates for the various positions, we are fully committed to be working together in unified fashion toward accomplishing this very challenging and inspired mission in front of us. And I want to thank you for stepping up to accept the leadership position.
Commissioner Thomas, and then Commissioner Field will be making the motion to adjourn, but if there are any closing remarks, Commissioner Thomas. Mr. Chair, you can be so upset with me. Because there's only 2 more people who wanted to speak. So if you all can keep it to 1 minute, would that be appropriate? Or if that's not appropriate, then, but see, I think we're talking about reform. This would never happen in a city council meeting. This would never happen with any other governmental kind of meeting where there's public comment. I think there's something about good faith, and there's something about creating a frame for the narrative. And I think the fact that public comment is closed, that it wouldn't be a bad idea. I mean, maybe they can't say what they have to say in a minute or so. But if all of us wanted to make closing remarks, I think we should be willing to hear them. That's just my thought. Commissioner, I would entertain, if you so wish, or any of the other commissioners, I would entertain a motion to reopen public comment with the rules under public comment, if you so wish. Yes, I move that we reopen. Is there a second?
Yes. Second.
And we're ready to take a roll call vote, but first I will ask if there's objection. All right, without objection, I will ask the executive director to administer public comment under the rules of today.
Sure, we can consider this closing public comment if you'd like.
Yes.
And allow up to a minute for closing public comment. Practicing city attorney, interim, if you will.
So my question for the CLA's office is, given that they work for the council, and given that there are some very complicated issues, and given that this body is going to talk about council enlargement and possibly multi-seat districts, what materials are you going to be able to provide without council direction to the question of council powers over land use and others that might change with different models of changing the council makeup? Because if they get deep into the process and then only want to hear that when it finally gets to the council, it'll be too late.
Next speaker.
My name is Glenn Bailey. First of all, I'm president of the Northridge East Neighborhood Council, which includes the university, so welcome to Northridge East Neighborhood Council. I'm also co-chair of the Neighborhood Council Budget Advocates, and I know that your executive officer and assistant met with Jay Handel, the other co-chair, and Jack Countryville. I just wanted to, first of all, point out that although we're looking at the neighborhood councils and their future role, we in the budget advocates look at all 40+ city departments, including the mayor, controller, city council, the proprietary and departments. And though there's provisions in the attachment B with regards to section 909, 910, 911, in terms of the role of neighborhood councils advising the city, again, advisory, on city services and city budget.
Sir, 1 minute.
Okay, we just want to make sure that we will continue that and have opportunity to really engage on those issues. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners. Thank you for reopening this public comment. Thank you so much. My brief public comment, closing comment. I just want to thank you for the presentation. Very informative, very entertaining, very educational. And regarding the city charter, which is our constitution, TR said the constitution was made for the people, not the people for the constitution. I just want to share that with you because you're here to represent everybody and to make sure the government hears the voices of the people by the people. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nicholas Caputo. I'm a member of the Echo Park Neighborhood Council, having been with this committee for every meeting it's been to so far. Of the things that were mentioned here, I would like to remind everyone that in 20 years, none of the people who appointed the majority of this committee will actually be on the council anymore. When we create the laws here, we're not just creating it for today, we're creating it for the future. And so don't be afraid to shoot for the moon, because even if you get edited or knocked down, you will still wind up in the stratosphere, which is a lot higher than most of council members are probably trying to go towards. And to that end, I would say, don't be afraid to, in my humble recommendation, do the following. Drastically expanding city council so that no council district has more than 100,000 constituents or 125,000, what have you, and that's automatically resized at every census, creating an incentive to keep the city population growing and to address problems for when it declines. That includes housing, that includes transit, that includes affordability, and beyond that, reforms in terms of city departments, such as the police department. When misconduct happens,
thank you. 1 minute.
Yeah, whatnot. When misconduct happens, the financial remedy for that misconduct should not come from the city general fund, it should come from the offending department. More so, ranked choice voting.
Yeah.
And don't reality that we are not going to touch the entire charter with the time that we have here, but focusing on the halo issues is some of the best use of our time. But thank you very much for everything you're doing here. You have a tremendous Herculean task in front of you, and so just the fact that you're here is really a blessing and a true service. So thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you all. Thank you.
Any other commissioners have closing remarks? I'm gonna hand it over to.
Oh, I did, sorry.
Please, Commissioner Fuentes.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank everyone who showed up today to give public comment. I also wanted to thank the CSUN staff who are here helping.
Commissioner Field for your motion.
Yes, I would like us to, and I presume someone's taking minutes, that we adjourn in memory of the 3 deputies who died in an explosion yesterday at the sheriff's training facility. I don't have their names, but I would like us to adjourn in memory of their service to the community.
Second. Is there an objection to adjourning? Seeing none, so ordered. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And our next meeting will be July 30th. In CD10, stay tuned for more details this week. Wow.
No chance. Nice seeing you again. Lou, thank you again for what you've done. I know I sounded more there in public comment. I really appreciate it. This is really, you know, when you don't have all the time in the world, you don't have mental energy and all that your time is limited, you take things that, of course, stone, and this is far away the thing that became 17 or something. Yeah, it really is. In 20 years, you, like, 5 people are gonna remember the names of this room.